This is a Lawful Stupid RPG production.
Hail and well met, and welcome to Echoes of Krynn, Dragons of the Hidden Flood, an actual play podcast of 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons set in the world of Dragonlance and presented by Lawful Stupid RPG. I'm Medium, and on behalf of our cast and crew, thank you so much for the wonderful support you've shown us. We're constantly amazed at the passionate feedback we received, and it is greatly appreciated. Many of our listeners have asked about longer episodes, and while at the moment we don't have the capability of editing entire games for regular broadcast, for the next few uploads we've created compilations of past episodes, organizing them by recording sessions. If you've been with us from the beginning, you're not likely to hear very much that you haven't already, but we hope you'll enjoy our adventure just as much the second time around. If you're a new subscriber, welcome! And for everyone, we hope you have as much fun listening to our games as we had playing them. Don't worry, we're in the process of editing new episodes, and they're coming soon. If you think we do a good job and would like to buy the cast and crew a cup of coffee to show your thanks, we're more than happy to take you up on it. Head over to ko-fi.com, that's www.ko-fi.com/lawfulstupidrpg to show your support. Now, I invite you all to step with me into fantasy, and for our time together, let imagination rule. Last time, in a dungeon in the imperial city of Gwynedd, an Ergothian, a Kender, and a Gully Dwarf found reprieve from their imprisonment, so long as they agreed to perform in a new opera about the famous champions of the lance. Meanwhile, a half-elf, a dwarf, and a one-armed human accepted an imperial invitation to attend that same opera. It is mid-afternoon. Lhasa, Anwir, Farron. You've all been invited to dinner with the Emperor's family. A pre-show chance to speak with each other, to eat, to have a friendly beginning to your evening before going to the opera. But before that happens, you have time alone in your individual quarters. They are luxurious, especially for Anwir and Lhasa, who have been on sea journey for the last several weeks. Your belongings have been brought up and are now in your rooms. You have a moment to yourselves. Anwir, is there anything you would like to do?
After having been at sea for several weeks, I will take a moment to shave, to trim my beard, to comb my hair, wash up, and then I will be sitting quietly on the floor after I've finished my ablutions.
Very well. There are several different jars of unguents, scented oils. There is a very fine length of cloth that at first glance looks like it's just that, a length of cloth. Although thinking about the fashion you have seen here in Gwynedd, it seems that most of the upper class wear togas. Their skin underneath it is bare, open to the air and to the sun, and they wear these luxurious pieces of very fine fabric. The style that you've seen most represented is that of a red, very deep red color with fine fringe that's a little darker red on the sides. That is what the Emperor wears, and it seems that it is what is in fashion at the moment. There is such a garment in your room, if you care to wear it, but there was nothing said to you that says that that is what you are expected to wear.
I will touch it, and I think out of curiosity I will try it on, but I feel exposed in this garment, and I will remove it and put on my black leathers again.
Very well. Lhasa, this is the first moment you've been really alone in weeks. Even on the ship, whenever you've had a moment for your own thoughts, you've never been more than a few feet away from another individual. What would you like to do?
As I close the door behind me, I find my hands once again returning to the necklace hung around my neck. I turn to it and with a loving gaze, I say, "You see, Mother, I knew one day I'd be amongst your people. Maybe they will embrace me in the way that I had always wished you had. I know you were unable. But now there's so much to do. I don't know, will I have the time to really get to know these people? Will there be enough of me to help them understand?" With a deep sigh, I turn and begin washing and preparing myself so that the day's voyages do not offend the noble hosts that we have around us.
Again, there is a collection of oils and perfumes and a very luxurious length of fabric that seems to be meant to be worn almost as a drape around the upper body.
Carefully and thoroughly, I begin searching through the various anointments and trying to find something that has a downplayed scent, nothing that will be overwhelming or present myself as something more than what I am. I want something that will help me blend in amongst these people, something native but not too bold.
You find something that has a very light, spicy smell to it. It seems appropriate.
Yes, I think this would do nicely. And I begin to apply these along with the cleansing. And I would even produce a small vial and see if I could siphon off some of this into the vial to be kept for later use.
Very well. You now have a vial of cinnamon-scented oil. Farron, you return to your quarters after finally having been officially introduced to the Emperor. And it appears you are going to be in his presence for the remainder of the day after a brief interlude here in your quarters. What do you do?
What time of day is it?
About mid-afternoon.
Thinking that I may be a little bit busy later, I dress and prepare for the evening, brush my beard, re-braid it, and I kneel down to pray to Shinare, as I have to do each and every evening.
Is there anything in particular that you wish to say in your prayer?
I kneel down beside the bed.
"O Silver Master, I feel in my heart that so much rests on this mission of trade. Please give me the strength to complete my goals and empower me with your glorious gifts."
The prayer is comforting meditation, a mantra. You feel your nerves settling. Your purpose is clear. The magnitude of your task here is daunting, but you feel in your heart that you have a goddess on your side. There are, of course, the normal perfumes and oils and the traditional garments of the Argothian court, which you have always been welcome to use, but I don't know that you have tried.
I'll make an effort to try, Simon.
It is clearly not meant for a dwarf. Whoever has given you this garment failed to take into consideration the difference in stature, although you are tall for a dwarf. I would like you to make a general dexterity check to see how well you are able to apply this garment.
Really? Oh dear. Well, I already know what my dexterity is, so I rolled a 12, so that's 11.
Not bad. Certainly not the best job. Probably could have used some help, but you have it on your body and cinched the areas where you think it should be cinched? And do you wear armor underneath it, or are you going as the rest of the nobility do and bare-chested underneath?
Yes, I go bare-chested. I am extremely well-built and muscular for a dwarf.
Indeed.
Noticeably as well, I am very hairy, which I am very proud of.
Might be something that the dwarves of Thorbidden should adopt. After about an hour, there is a soft knock at each of your doors, and you are called to dinner. You make your way through the Imperial Palace to a veranda that looks out over the sea. As the sun is setting, you see that clouds are approaching the city. And as the wind begins to pick up and the silk curtains that hang in front of this vista begin to billow as you are walking in, servants begin to close large wooden partitions that enclose this area. There is a long wooden table of very polished dark wood that is piled with various dishes and baskets of bread and tureens. It appears that everyone is going to be sitting on cushions around this table. It is low to the ground, more of a reclined position as opposed to sitting at chairs at a table. At the head of the table is the Emperor, Mercardior Redic V. And he has at his right, who you assume to be his son, a gangly-looking youth, probably somewhere around 14 or 15, wearing a similar toga to his father, but does not fill it out nearly as well. He has short hair and a somewhat pensive look in his eye, dark-skinned like his father, although not quite as deeply colored as his father. His father has a very deep umber color to his skin and a full beard. His wife, Ostrena, sits to his left, slightly lighter in color. Her hair is in very elaborate curls, and it is bound by a pink ribbon and then cascades down her back, all the way down to the small of her back. And like most of the women that you have seen here in Gwynedd, she is wearing a palla made of yellow fabric that hangs on her body and then is cinched very tightly around her legs. She has many jewels and beads that cover her neck, her shoulders, hang from her ears. She is reclining next to her husband on the left, and then next to her left is the Emperor's daughter, Vatia. She is identical in every way except for size to her mother, clearly older than the son. As you come in, you see them. They all look at you. The Emperor raises a hand and beckons you forward. Excellent, excellent. It has been long since we had the guests of state to entertain with this sort of pomp. I've been looking forward to it. You remember my wife Ostrena, my daughter Vatia. Do not believe that I had the opportunity to introduce my son before. He is Jarvan. And he looks at you all expectantly.
A magnificent and very well-received honor, my lord. May I say that the grandeur in this hall is one that I should expect to see nowhere else in my journeys. Your son, truly, he honors you with a gracious figure of what will someday become a warrior, and of your wife and your daughter. These are rare beauties, even by the eyes of elves.
He grins broadly as your master appears behind you. He looks past you towards Aranathis and nods. Your apprentice is very, very polite. I look forward to having many conversations with him and with you, Aranathis. Then he looks expectantly towards you, Farron.
A humble greeting, Your Imperial Majesty, and to your son as well. Thorbidden wishes to open trade with you once again. And
Of course, but such talk is not for dinner.
Very true. I do apologise. Same as the half-elf said, very beautiful people. Really nice to meet you all.
And I shuffle off awkwardly.
He nods. There is a slight twinkle in his eye as he does. And then he turns to you, Anwir. And a scribe from the great library. A rare honor indeed. I look forward to learning what brings you to Gwynedd.
I am simply here to observe, my lord. And I hope that the words I write will do justice to the beauty that I see. And I give a slight bow.
Excellent, excellent. Please sit down, and I will introduce our other guests. He points to other people who, now that you have arrived, also begin to take their seats around the table. He says, "May I introduce the head of the Imperial Guard?" And you see a man wearing scale mail armor, very similar to the other Imperial Guards that you have seen in your travels around Gwynedd. Similar to what Tulian Haxus was wearing, although this fellow's armor seems to be a bit finer and a bit more reinforced. And he has around his neck, almost like a small toga, but very small compared to the rest of the fabric, made of gold around his neck, like a very large and elaborate scarf. And he looks at you all and puts his fists to his chest and says, "I am Praetor Exos Nitros. I am the head of the Imperial Guard, as His Majesty has just said. Thank you, Your Majesty, for the opportunity to dine with you tonight, and the opera. It has been a long time." The Emperor nods graciously, and Exios Nitros sits down across from you, Anwir. The Emperor points to another man who is there with a woman dressed similarly to the Empress, but not nearly as bedecked by jewels and beads. That man steps forward and bows to you all and says, "My name is Daxon Alatu. I am the Minister of Trade and Finance for Gwynedd. This is my consort, Sheltha." They bow before you before sitting down. Both of them sit across from you, Lhasa. Then Aranathis sits down on the cushions as well, nearby, and food is served. The dishes are all very heavily spiced. As soon as they are served, you can smell the exotic scents coming off of them, and although there are a variety of flavors, they all seem to have one thing in common, and that would be very spicy, and most of the meat seems to be seafood. There are a few dishes that seem to have as their main course goat meat. They are all passed around. You have a large amount of a sort of rice-like base, which you then take a portion of and then add the different heavily sauced fish dishes and goat meat dishes. Each of them spiced in their own particular way, but after a while the flavors begin to sort of meld together and create one long sensation of burning in your mouth. The Emperor leans over to you, Anwir, and says, "You might be a little trepidatious to try this particular dish. It is made with a sort of fermented cream. We don't have very much in common with our neighbors to the north, but the Akul tribes are quite adept when it comes to finding different ways to consume milk. I believe they call this yogurt. You might try it. I dare say that there is nothing quite like it in Palanthas."
My diet as a scribe is rather simple. I'm happy to sample, but I'm afraid my stomach might be... I must be careful with the richness of this food. It is quite delicious and rather excessive for my simple palate.
He nods and sort of makes a gesture of understanding with his hand and with his face. Is there anything that you wish to do while this dinner is going on? Obviously, you are here playing a different part than who you actually are.
My goal in this dinner is to not draw attention to the fact that I'm only grabbing serving dishes with one hand. my left side is still covered by my half cape, and so I'm only eating dishes that I can eat just with a fork or that I can pick up with my hand.
I think I'm going to ask for a general dexterity roll on this to see how effectively you were able to hide this without seeming like you're trying to hide something.
All right. That's a 7.
Unfortunately, although you have become accustomed to only having the one limb, you do manage to draw a bit of attention to yourself as there is a loud clattering of a spoon at one point as you drop it into the tureen with a bit more force than would be necessary.
I wince, and there's a flash of pain on my face to have not shielded my secret effectively.
The Empress sees this and clears her throat. Master Dwarf,
Yes, Your Majesty.
my husband has given me leave to ask you, were you involved in the war?
I was, yes. I was a part of the Northern Coalition for Bardin. I was captured and made a slave in Pax Thacus for a time.
At this, Daxon Alatu folds his hands and looks at you. A slave?
Well, I was made to mine and dig rock, yes. You could call it a slave.
And now you find yourself a ambassador? That is quite the story.
Yes, I was decorated for my part in when Pax Thacus was freed. I took part in the negotiations between the humans and the dwarves.
Interesting. Perhaps we will be able to speak more of this at some time.
Oh, I would love to.
It was my impression that the dwarves of Torbaden were a very insular lot, and I confess I was very surprised to hear that there were any of them involved in the fight against the forces of darkness in the north.
Well, they did try to attack Thorbardin, but they didn't get very far.
Praetor Exos Nitros nods and says, they did not get very far in Ergoth either. The Black Dragon army attacked us, but they were driven back.
Fantastic to hear. A testament to you Argethians.
There is a small throat clearing as Vatia, the princess, looks towards you, Farron, and says, is it true that there is a follower of Mishakul who is a woman?
That's very true, yes.
The table around you, and Anwir, you would definitely notice this with your very perceptive nature, has gone very quiet as a great deal of attention is being paid to this particular exchange.
I witnessed a healer man in the Pax Thacus mines where I was captured.
Really? Says the Emperor. I would definitely like to hear more about that. It is a wondrous and miraculous time that we live in. We have Mishalkites here in Gwynedd.
Oh, that's fantastic.
None of them have shown an aptitude for this miraculous healing, of course. That would be a sight to see. But there are sermons being given in the shelf. Not all of them are... Let us say that some of them do not cast a flattering light upon the nobility here in Gwynedd.
Oh, I'm sure if they are chosen by Mishakul, then it won't be long until they are in receipt of that gift.
He nods, sort of has a bit of a frowning expression on his face, but nods thoughtfully.
Do you have any clerics here yet?
Not that I am aware of. I have instructions throughout the city to find them if they show themselves, but so far we have not had any sort of blessing of that nature.
Maybe they are not known to you yet, Your Majesty.
I give him a smile.
I hope that if they are out there, they are not scared. We have nothing to lose and everything to gain by having the favor of the gods with us once again. It has become too much of the current history to ignore, despite what some people might think.
There are very few of us around. I bring you Shinari's blessing.
Excuse me?
I am an acolyte of Shinari, the Silver Master.
There is even more shocked silence around the table as people look at each other, and there's a little bit of a throat clearing, and you look and see Daxon Elatu sort of... Really? It is rather hard to believe, Master Farron.
Oh, I felt the same way. Yes. I'm more than happy to... do you have anyone that needs a goddess's touch?
Perhaps. Although I would not be... I forgive me, your majesty. I find this to be rather insulting. This is not appropriate for dinner.
I do apologize.
The Emperor waves his hand and says, "It is all right. There are other things we could discuss."
Sensing the discomfort, I would like to break the silence. Your Lordship, tell me of the opera. The war is in so recent of our past. Where did you draw the text for such a piece?
I ordered that there was a gathering of the various stories, songs, and tales of these so-called heroes of the lance, these champions. And I ordered several different playwrights to put together a compelling narrative and had one of our more accomplished musicians put it to music. I was able to contribute some small musical advice as well as adding a bit to the story, making it feel more appropriate for the Argothians, but really I had very little to do with it. I will be curious to hear your opinions. As a scribe of the Great Library, no doubt you have a great deal more insight to these various individuals than anyone here.
Perhaps. But art is simply a matter of interpretation of stories that one hears. I'm sure it will do your stage justice. And I bow.
There is a rumble of thunder, followed by a long call from a horn. It starts very high, and then descends, echoes out. The Emperor looks towards the side of this room that has been closed off, that as you were coming in was open and the wind was blowing in. And he says, that horn tells me that there will be rain this evening. He listens for a moment. Nothing to be concerned about. I think perhaps it is time that we finish our meals and prepare for our journey over to the Teatro Spire. As he says this, Jarvan, the prince, who has been silent this entire meal, stands up abruptly and looks to his father and says, "With your permission, your majesty, I wish to be excused." And the Emperor nods and Jarvan hurries out.
If I can make eye contact with Ostrena before we depart, I would like to give her a look of gratitude for changing the tide of conversation when my mishap occurred.
Very well. Lhasa, you have been silent this entire conversation. As the group is finishing up their meal and getting ready to leave, is there anything you wish to say or any comment you wish to make to the room or to Aranathus?
Yes, so over the course of the meal, I have been doing my best to carefully observe the manner in which they are going about eating these foods and practicing as best I can to imitate these actions as closely as I can without making it an uncomfortable situation for those who might observe it. And having enjoyed all these various goods, I would certainly turn to our host and say most graciously, "My lordship, the splendor with which you adorn your table is truly a magnificent thing. There are foods here which I had never hoped to sample in my life, and although I have eaten much of the sea during my time, there are dishes here that expand the mind of those who consume them to new possibilities. I hope that the play which you present to us will be just as edifying as what we have consumed here, and with the blessings of rains coming to your people, I am sure that there are bountiful gifts yet to come this evening."
You are a very interesting person, Lhasa. Lhasa, could you do me a favor and please make a perception or an insight check as you were observing everyone? I want to see how well you were able to pick up on maybe things that they might have been trying to hide.
I speak up.
Yes, exactly what the elf says. It's fantastic.
As I pick the food up with my hands and eat it straight from the fingers. A lot less grace than what the elves have.
Very well. Lhasa, your roll?
I've rolled a 16.
16. Well, you've observed two things. One, Jarvan was very quiet and preoccupied. You've seen nervousness before, perhaps not on a human, but if you had to guess, that was what you beheld here. Also, Daxon Alatu seemed extremely uncomfortable by the thought that he might know someone who needs healing. And the last thing that you noticed was that Praetor Exos Nitros, while claiming to be happy to be able to sit at table and also having claimed to be excited to go to the opera, did not eat hardly any of his food and did not seem to engage very much in the conversation, was interested in the various moments when people talked about the war, about combat, about defense, but otherwise was not interested in being there. Those are the things that you have observed.
With those observations, if there's opportunity as we are traveling between table and our next destination, I would choose to take the opportunity to speak with the Praetor.
Ah, very well. As you stand up to leave, you get the impression that he usually has something that he is supposed to be doing at this moment. He looks to the room, and you could see that other members of the Imperial Guard are going about their business, making sure that doors are opened before you, doors are closed behind you, that the Emperor has his attendant guard. It seems that Praetor Nitros is uncomfortable being in the center and would prefer to be on the outside conducting these various arrangements. You do have an opportunity, as he is traveling with you. He is in and amongst your group, surrounded by the various Imperial Guards as you head towards the stables, as it seems that you will be traveling what you gather to be a short distance to the Teatro Spire, but nevertheless there will be a carriage and horses.
Praetor, do forgive me as I am not well versed in your ways or manners. But it would seem to me that you have been distant this evening. Are there concerns that draw you? Or is it more to do with an unfamiliarity with courtly graces, perhaps?
You are very observant. Yes, I would have to say it is the latter. I am not used to being the one being protected. Although it would seem that would be the case here, This is a great honor. I would just as soon be permitted to do my job.
Praetor, forgive me if I am a bit bold. It would seem to me that men such as you do not need protecting, and it would seem to me that here within the walls of this palace and amongst such fine company, surely no protection would really be needed aside from those you've positioned outside the halls. So then, I encourage you, if you can, at least in this moment, to calm yourself and enjoy these festivities while you may. I, too, find myself drawn away from such things frequently. So then, enjoying them becomes all the more important while we can.
Unfortunately, I am not a person who can live in the moment. There was a minor breach of security earlier today. He adjusts his golden scarf around his neck. Nothing that need to concern you. We are safe. And I am having a good time. I promise you.
Well, I certainly hope it has nothing to do with the Daxos and his seeming concerns.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Well, all the same, even if it was very minor, I would be curious to hear your thoughts. How could there be a breach of any kind? Surely I've seen the efficacy of your people, and I've seen you yourself, the leader of them, and I would think nothing should escape your eyes.
Very flattering. If you truly wish to know, I will see that your master is informed. It is not something that we will attempt to keep a secret, but there are individuals who should be questioned and others who should be fully informed before we inform our guests. But I assure you, there was never any danger.
Perhaps. But please see that you do. And perhaps it would be not unwise to really consider taking a moment for yourself in this time. I know it is difficult, particularly for a man of action, but so rarely are we afforded a storm and a play in the same day.
I like storms.
On this we can agree.
I've never been to an opera during a storm. I imagine it will be an enhancement.
Certainly. It brings many bountiful gifts, no matter where it falls. But I imagine, on a stage, it must only draw forth the magic of it.
The rest of your journey is relatively quiet, as you can tell that perhaps the Praetor has listened to some of your words. He tries to relax a bit, but after a few moments he tenses up again, his eyes looking around for danger. So as the short ride in the carriage commences, Anwir, you think back to the conversation at dinner. Your heightened senses, your heightened perception. You're playing back the various conversations, including the astounding revelation by the dwarf that he is a cleric. That is hard to believe, but not impossible, although he certainly doesn't appear like any cleric that you have seen, but then you haven't seen that many. But as that revelation was made, you think back to the various reactions in the room. I would like you to make an insight check, if you don't mind.
I have rolled a 1 on the die for a total of 8.
That is an unfortunate roll. Your finely tuned senses tell you that you might have missed something, perhaps an exchange that happened while you were yourself stunned by this revelation. But as you play the moment over in your mind, You cannot put your finger on what it is that you missed. As you approach the Teatro Spire, you see that it is a building that is roughly cube-shaped from the ground all the way to the top, but then starting in the middle section of the cube, there is a tetrahedral structure that rises up, and then from the top of it, a long spire sticks up into the sky. There is no adornment on it other than it seems to be coated in some sort of somewhat reflective metal, but it is just a large point sticking up into the air, and then the rest of the building extends back from that. The facade of the building has several columns and large openings where you can see people milling about. The rain has just begun to fall, and so there is a little bit of haste being made as people perhaps don't take as long getting into the theater as they normally would. But as you approach, you see people arriving on palanquins, you see some coming on carts being led by horses. The carriage that the Emperor has is a very lavish affair. It is covered and very long and has a team of 4 beautiful black horses that lead it, each of them very ornately decorated with silver barding, and the imperial crest of 3 billowing sails fully on display on the doors of the carriage and also in the front and in the back. As you arrive, we are going to turn our attention away from those who are attending the opera and towards those who are going to be performing in it. Manto and Tiri and Blip, as you arrive under guard at the Teatro Spire, coming in from the back, you are met by Berenzi Victo, who comes forward and looks over all 3 of you and waves the guards to stand a little further away from you. It says, "Very good, you have arrived. I must say you look a little bit more presentable outside of the dungeon. I hope you understand, Kender, what a great risk I am taking in allowing this."
I do, and thank you very, very much for giving me the opportunity to show off my talents.
I will introduce you to the composer shortly, and, he will take it from there. Keep in mind that you are representing one of the champions of the lance. This tassel hood is difficult to conceive of a Kender as a hero, but in theater, anything is possible.
Upon hearing that, I raise an eyebrow and tilt my head.
He is a hero, so I think it'll be easy. I'll be able to do it.
Of course, excellent. He turns towards you, Manto and Blip, and looks at you. I believe there is a stable nearby. Will that be acceptable for your companion?
Are you talking about my friend Blip, or are you talking about dinner?
I lean over and scratch my arm. And as I do, flakes slowly flutter and drift to the ground.
Berenzi grimaces and holds a scented cloth to his nose as he backs away and looks at you, Manto. She cannot come inside the theater. I take it dinner is the name of the pig. Neither one of them can enter. As I said, there is a stable nearby. That is the best I can offer.
But perhaps there is some need backstage?
There is always need backstage, but it is... I am taking a big enough risk having a Kender backstage and a prisoner from the dungeon. I have a great deal of leeway given the importance of this event, but it only extends so far. Having a creature such as this backstage, gods above, I simply cannot.
I will turn to Blip and crouch down to her level. My friend, I am afraid we must part ways here, just for the time being, but You have the very important mission of making sure that dinner stays safe and also making sure that no unsavory people come in through that back door.
Where? I look at Manto terrified. You go? You go where?
In the very large, pretty building over there.
Where I go?
I look around and do I see where this stable is?
Yes, it's very obvious. There is a large stable nearby, clearly positioned to be of use for those arriving at the Teatro Spire with horses, carriages, and the like.
I will point over to the stable. You get to go over there with all the very, very pretty horses. I would like to bring you in, but we are prisoners and I'm already on very thin ice.
But it not cold.
This is true. And I look back to Berenzi. Are you sure there is nothing that my friend can do? Perhaps provide security or trash pickup?
I have to agree. I presume the people watching this opera are going to be very high class, very rich and wealthy people, correct?
Well, that is the hope.
So they will be very fat and overweight, and all of that meat and all the food that they've been eating will get stuck under their folds, will have kind of gone kind of rotten. They'll be stinky. No one's gonna tell them anything. Blip could come in. No one's gonna think anything else.
I look under my arms and make sure I don't have any food in any folds anywhere.
He looks behind him at the theater door, the backstage entrance, if you will, and steps close to you, Teely and Manto. It says, "How many singers have you had dealings with?"
Well, there is Yosef who travels through the streets and plays, and then we have the band that sometimes plays at the tavern on nights, and
I mean professional singers, people who have devoted their lives to their instrument.
I begin counting aloud on my fingers and listing a bunch of random names.
Oh, there's Joey, Quisenta, there is Felicia, there is,
and I just begin really quietly while Manto's speaking, just listing a bunch of random names out.
And I finally stop and look over at Teely and obviously she is much more well-cultured than I am.
Well, yes, but Kenda do not count. Their singers, are an extremely sensitive group. I cannot bring a gully dwarf backstage. I simply cannot. I apologize, and if you wish to return to prison, I can arrange it. I suggest that you do not, however.
No. And I will turn back to Blip. So our options are this. You go to the stables with dinner and make friends with the horses, or we go back to jail.
I'll cross my arms and sort of look off to the side and try to think really, really hard. I know prison. I like ponies. I guess I go with ponies. I'll step closer to Manto. Who keep you? How you stay safe?
You have prepared me well. I will take care of myself, but also we have this very, very brave Kender here.
I wave.
If she is anything like her fellow countryman, Tasselhoff, or whatever we are calling him in this thing, then she is very brave indeed.
I believe you'll find that the name of the hero is Tassel Hood. Very well researched.
Yes, Tassel Hood. But you will be safe.
Blip, just as you don't like prison, I have this thing.
I reach down and lift up one of the layers of my skirts, and there's just the jingling noise ensues of everything clanking together, and I pull out a small children's doll, and I hand it to Blip.
This is, Henrietta, let's say. And she, doesn't like loud noises, and I think the opera's gonna be very loud. Do you think you could take care of Henrietta for me?
I take good care. I eagerly reach out both hands, and as I go to take the doll, I immediately drop it. I'll stoop down and pick it back up. I take. I'll start to pet it.
Thank you.
Manto, you stay safe. I go.
And you stay safe as well, my friend. And then I will look down at Dinner and give her a little scratch behind the ear. And you watch out for each other.
Dinner, my friend.
I'll take care of Manto, don't worry.
Excellent. And with that, Manto and Teely make their way into the Teatrospire, followed by the guards that accompany them. And Blip, you look over and see a young human Ergothian with his arms folded, looking at you with disgust. He looks like he might be about 11 years old. He has a large scar on his face, going from the top of his forehead across his nose, coming down to his neck. But that is the only thing on him that you see that could possibly be indicative of lower class. The rest of... Perhaps better for me to describe this in terms that Blip would understand. He looks very fancy except for his face. And he he looks at you and has his arms folded and says, "My name is Castor. I'm to give you a bath."
A what? I freeze and tense.
You gonna come quietly?
No. I know like that. I scowl.
He scowls back at you. "Just follow me. Are you hungry?"
Yeah, I like food.
Bath is kind of like food.
No. Bath. No good. As I scratch my arm again, more flakes fall off and float to the ground.
Just follow me.
No bath?
Fine. No bath.
I look at him suspiciously, but slowly start to follow. Dinner! You come!
The pig trots after you, happily, and you head over to the stables. Inside the Teatrospire, the very first things that you see are just the wide variety of different people running to and fro. You see some that are clearly in costume, some that are carrying costumes, some that appear to be dancers, some that appear to be members of a chorus. There is a great deal of pandemonium. You are led to a relatively quiet corner of this backstage area. The large blue curtain is drawn in front of you, and as of yet, there is no sound of any audience on the other side of it. But as you go to this quiet corner with Berenzi Victo, he makes a motion, and a stagehand comes running over with a series of different garments and begins to measure the two of you and show various things. Berenzi looks and says, "I think the green tunic and the sheepskin vest for our tassel hood, and of course, for our storm big blade, the plate armor." You look and see there is indeed a set of what appears to be plate armor. Although, as soon as you touch it, Manto, it is clearly just stiffened cloth.
This is very interesting craftsmanship. I pick it up and I'm not sure how many swords it would stop, but it does look realistic.
Well, it is theater, and we want you to be comfortable while performing as best we can, at any rate. There is, of course, this shield. I believe it is actually iron, or perhaps steel. Try it out.
I will take the shield, and since my father was an armorer, I will very carefully inspect this shield. In looking at it, does it look like good, high-quality fighting material?
Well, make a perception check.
Alrighty. Ooh, that is a very good roll. 22.
Well, immediately putting it on your arm, you can tell it is, in fact, real steel. It has the weight that you would expect. It seems to be old, but in perfectly good condition regardless. There's a few dents and dings in it, which, based on your experience, you think are actually evidence of battle damage. Most notably, on the front of it, there is a worn but still visible image of a bird in flight clutching a sword in its talons with a crown over its head. This is the symbol of the Knights of Solemnia.
Upon seeing the symbol, having, looked at the bag and then turning it over and seeing the symbol, I give a small gasp. This is no prop. This actually belonged to a knight, and from what I can tell, has been used previously in battles. Where did you come across such an item?
I'm not particularly aware of the details. Is it important?
No, I am just admiring the craftsmanship and the authenticity to which you are ensuring embodies this performance. And you see a glint in his eye as he is saying this.
That sounds awesome. Can I take a look?
Yes, of course, and she will hold it out to you, though I imagine it is much bigger than you are.
Yeah, I reach out my arms and try and take a hold of this thing as it just clanks to the ground, as I cannot support its weight at all. But I just stick my face really close to it as if I'm examining every single mark. And
Wow, this is really, really cool. That's awesome. Do I get anything like this? I know I get a green tunic, which is great because I'll bring up my eyes, but do I get any kind of weapon thing? I mean, I have a hoopak. Would you like me to use that?
We have a stick for you. If you prefer to use your own, I don't think it really matters.
Oh, can I see the stick?
And do you have a sword?
He shrugs and nods at both of you and makes another motion with his hand, and another stagehand comes over and drops off some prop weapons. The stick that was to be used as Tasselhood's weapon during this performance, you look at it, it is completely wrong. There's no elegance to it, there's no usefulness to it. It doesn't even have a metal tip, and the top of it has 3 prongs as opposed to 2, completely useless as a sling.
Okay, mantle, was it? Right?
Yes, indeed.
Is there anything cool about this? Because I don't think it's very cool.
It looks like a weirdly designed stick to me. I'm not sure what sort of martial properties it has besides, an old housewife swiping her husband with it.
Yeah, okay, I'm gonna use my own hoopak, thank you, is more accurate. And if you'd like, I could talk to the person who designed it, because they got it completely wrong, and they are dumb.
I'll look into it. And he looks at you, Manto, and looks at the shield. Authentic, you say? That's good. Someone did their job.
And you said they bring a sword out as well, but it's a prop sword?
Yes, it is a ridiculously large sword. Looking at it, you can't believe that it is made of metal. And indeed, when you pick it up, it appears to be wooden. It is designed and painted to look like metal, but this is a very big sword, which you suppose would be appropriate for someone named Big Blade. But just oversized and completely unwieldy as a weapon, but it might look good on stage.
I take the sword and do some swipes, getting used to its extreme length, but being very proficient in a wide variety of blades, I quickly figure out where its balance is and how best to manipulate it.
As you swing, I'm just running over to where it lands as if you're hitting me.
Ah, you got me. Oh, okay, let's do it again. It's fun. I like this.
No, Miss... It was Teely, right?
It was indeed, yes.
I have someone to introduce you to. Please follow me.
Ooh, okay.
Berenzi leads you over to another part of the backstage area that has a man sitting on a stool surrounded by individuals who have a variety of instruments, and he is speaking to them and making gestures to bits and pieces of paper that they have that they're all looking at intently. He steps up to him and says, Master Saunders, this is our Kenda replacement. The man he speaks to turns very thin, dark skin like the rest of the Argothians, but he sits atop this stool, almost perching on it like a hawk or some other bird getting ready to jump off and swoop down. And he looks, as his name is said, he looks over at you with a very quick look and a quick expression. His face is very drawn and pinched, and his eyes are bright and intense. And there's a little bit of cruelty behind them. And he looks at you and looks at Berenzi. It says, An actual Kender? Are you insane? Berenzi shrugs his shoulders and says, She can sing, and, well, you cannot blame me for trying to be authentic. This is an important event. And since there is nobody else who is the proper size, then we have what we have. She did sing for me in the prison. It is not a bad voice.
I won't let you down, sir.
And I extend my hand out to shake his.
He looks at it and reaches behind him and picks up a piece of paper and shoves it into your hand.
Oh.
Very well. Sing like this. And he makes a motion, and the musicians begin to play. And they play a simple tune that doesn't seem too difficult to learn. But when you hear the words, you are a little dismayed. The instruments begin to play. There are mostly strings. There are a couple that are different sized recorders. There's one very large wooden instrument that has a metal top that curves down and moves to where one would blow into it, and then looks like some sort of reed that is stuck into it. And as he blows into it, it creates a buzzing sound, which then is reverberated throughout the instrument. And Saunders sings, I'm called Little Tasselhood, born in a nasty wood, and what you have is mine. I steal from the young and old, poor, wealthy, meek and bold, just like the rest of my kind. With sinister graces, I creep into places to burgle you while you repose. I may look quite innocent, but if you're not vigilant, you'll be robbed from your head to your toes. I'm called Little Tasselhood, born in a and you see the rest is just like that. Do you think you can manage it?
At the beginning, my face was smiling and I was dancing, and as the song goes on, it just drops. And I look down at the script, and my hand begins to shake in a little bit of frustration. And then I grit my teeth and look back up at him.
Yes, I can do that. That would be great. Did you write this?
Yes.
You have a way with words, sir. It is an honor to work with you.
Well, you managed to find a mannered Kender, at the very least. Do well, and I'll see to it that you retain your hair.
Thank you. Do you have a quill that I could borrow so I can make notes so I can remember how well you sang it and the genius of how well you put this together, just for my notes?
Make a deception check, Teely.
Okay, I will do so. I'm not good at that. Not good at that. That's an 8.
Sorry, we don't have any to spare. And don't go picking them up either. Keep your hands to yourself, and then things will go better for you.
Okay. I mean, the melody's great, and the lyrics, they rhyme. It's good.
He's already turned back to the rest of the musicians and is moving on to other parts of this preparation and is ignoring you.
I reach in another one of my pouches, more kind of one on the upper surface of the skirt, and just pull out a little small cloth with some like little nuts and almost like trail mix on the inside. And I just drop it where he was originally kind of sat on the bench in case he's hungry.
All right.
And then I go into a corner and begin making some mental notes.
Very good. All right. As this is happening, Manto, you are putting on this costume. Berenzi is speaking with some other members of the cast. Looks like perhaps a dancer. And then he comes walking over to you and leans forward. He says, I thought that you were in prison for striking a nobleman's son.
It was a misunderstanding. The son decided that he wanted to compete against me in the pits, and he was a very sore loser. And of course, in order to save face, his father had me arrested.
He nods.
It is not an uncommon tale. But I have just learned that there was also some seditious rhetoric spoken.
I was not meaning to be seditious, my lord. I was merely trying to point out the hypocrisy that the nobles...
Do you have affiliation to this group, this Arms of Venus?
I have most certainly heard of them, for word spreads very quickly in the shelf. However, I spend so much time in the pit that I am not personally acquainted with them.
Well, just to be on the safe side, make sure you keep your helmet on.
Of course, my lord. Can I ask, what is your interest in this group?
None whatsoever. It is bad to have this sort of lawlessness in Gwynedd. Bad for everyone. But there will no doubt be people in the audience who will have at least heard of what has happened. No matter how hard people try to keep it secret. For all I know, Elatu himself might be there. Please keep your helmet on. I would like to introduce you to someone.
And he brings you over to a gentleman who is seated with his leg outstretched on a ottoman. It's heavily bandaged. He's wearing the typical toga, but on top of that, he's wearing a robe and then a very elaborate scarf around his neck. His dark skin, like the rest of Ergoth, and very elaborate tattoos on his face. They have sort of teardrop-like motifs that look, when they're close to his eyes, like they are in fact tears, but then on the rest of his face, they sort of seem more like rain. He looks up at you as you come walking over and he says, Hi, I'm Ham Tonsils. I understand that you will be walking the part of Storm Big Blade. I will be singing it.
It is an honor to meet you, sir.
Yes, it is. I hope you know your way around armor and making it look effective. I would hate for the beautiful music to be underperformed by some idiot on stage just wailing about.
As he says that, I immediately go into a variety of sword flourishes that almost look like a kata that adequately demonstrate my extreme skill with a sword as well as my dexterity.
Excellent. I will ask for a roll on this, I think, since you are
Sure.
specifically trying to impress. Let's go ahead and use acrobatics, I think, is going to be the better choice here.
Sure. All right, that is a dirty 20.
Well, Berenzi steps back and lets you do your thing, and as you conclude, you now understand the benefit of wearing this cloth armor that is designed to look like the real thing, as you don't know that you would have been able to do that with quite as much grace and aplomb as you would have if you had been wearing actual steel armor that this is designed to represent. But it's very impressive, and there's a little bit of applause from the group that has stopped to watch you do this. A few stagehands, a few dancers, all of them wearing the dancers in particular are wearing costumes that's somewhat reminiscent of dragons or lizard people, and they all look at you and applaud as you conclude your demonstration. Ham Tonsas looks at you and nods and says,
Yes, well, that will do, I suppose. It is a little bit showy, but I think the part does call for it. You will serve.
Of course, my lord.
Berenzi looks at you and nods, and as you walk away says,
Yes, excellent. The more popular singers do appreciate being treated like the nobility. Well done.
Quick question, DM. Have we had any rehearsals at all?
No, the only rehearsal that you have had is what Teely just had. And you are not expected to sing, so you get an understanding that you are supposed to walk on stage. You will probably be pushed and prodded and moved around where you need to go. You need to face the audience and gesture as if you are singing while Ham Thompson sings backstage.
Wondering about any sort of stage combat or fight choreography that needed to be learned in the next 5 minutes.
It looks like that's going to happen on the fly.
Great!
You can see some of the dancers as they begin to, as they are working on practicing. It does seem to approximate combat. They have swords or weapon-like accoutrement with them that they are certainly brandishing about as if they are preparing to fight. You can make an observation to see if you are able to pick up a little bit of it. Perception check, please.
17.
17. You immediately see the idea behind what it is that they're trying to do. It is on the footwork. As long as you look at the feet, you will be able to keep up with the combat, which will end up being very dance-like, apparently. Blip, as you arrive in the stables, you see it's very busy, as there are a number of animals that are housed here, but also there are more arriving as various lords and ladies arrive, some being carried by palanquins, which apparently are being stored here nearby the stables as well. Bearers relegated to being beasts of burden, and so they tend to congregate where the rest of the beasts of burden are congregating, although they seem to be more interested in playing dice games as opposed to being brushed and eating as the rest of the horses do. You are taken away from the main group where most of the action is happening in the stables and to an area in the back where Castor points to a plate that has half-eaten food on it. Sitting over in the corner of this room on a stool is a young girl with a long ponytail of luxurious black hair. She looks at you as she is mending a bridle and looks over at Castor and raises an eyebrow.
What is that? I think it's a gully dwarf. But honestly, it's more stink than flesh.
I blip. That's dinner. And I point to dinner.
The girl giggles. I'm Bringia.
You what? And I look really confused at her.
My name is Bringia.
Fungerwood. What?
My name...
I call you Hare.
Hare? What do you call him? She points over at Castor.
I reach up and scratch my head. I don't know. Nothing.
Why is she here, Castor? That man who dresses in those weird fancy clothes over at the theater, he told me that I was to give her a bath.
Hearing the word bath, I glare at him.
Bringia looks at him and looks at you and... You know, you have beautiful hair. Would you like me to comb it?
You know bath?
She looks over at Castor, who shrugs and folds his arms and leans against the wall of this little room, looks at this entire scene rather bored. She shakes her head and says, No, just brushing. And we can do the same for your pet. A nice, hard bristle scrub. No water, no soap, just to get off a bit of the bugs.
Shift back and forth on my feet and cross my arms. Cast a glance over at dinner, and I look back at her. Brush only. No bath. You bath, I bonk. I point to my bone club strapped to my back.
Interesting. I don't know that you would still have your bone club, given that you were
They took it?
in prison, and you certainly wouldn't have been given back any weapons. I guess it depends on how obvious it would be that this was in fact a weapon.
It is a giant femur bone that's taller than me, so that might be a little obvious.
All right. So you don't know what has become of your weapon, but you do not currently have it. But I will certainly allow you to have picked up something else that you could use as a club.
That's fine. I point, forgetting that it's there. Oh. I bonk, and I hold up a fist instead.
She nods and puts down her work and goes over to an empty bucket and pulls up a brush. And she says, Can you have your pig sit?
I turn to dinner. Dinner. Sit.
Looks at you stubbornly. Eyes sort of narrow.
I narrow my eyes back at him. Dinner. I lean forward. Point my finger.
Make an animal handling check.
Boy, we about to get into it. It's a 14.
A 14. Looks at you, holds the beat for a moment, cocks his head, and then his hindquarters just plop down.
That's right. I look back at her. Hey, sit now.
Bringia nods and smiles, says, Thank you very much. Would you care? And she holds you the brush. Would you like to brush your pet?
You say you brush. You brush.
Yes, if that is what you want, I am happy to do it. As this exchange is going on, Castor huffs and leaves the room, leaving the three of you alone. Bringia begins to brush Dinner, as at first Dinner flinches away from the brush, but then as it continues, he sort of relaxes, and you could see a expression of sheer delight washes over his face as his eyes close and his mouth begins to somewhat open, and he makes very satisfied grunts with the steady shh, shh, shh of the brush on his skin. And you see dirt and other things begin to fall off your pet.
I watch this for a few minutes and run my fingers through my thick, matted brown hair and pull. And as I pull, little pieces of mud break away. Huh. Then I'll walk over to the table. I eat now.
Yes, please. Help yourself.
I start grabbing fistfuls of food and just shoving them into my mouth, and food and crumbs just splatter down the front of my clothes.
As you are eating, Castor returns and he has in his hands a bucket. And he walks over with purpose towards where Brigia is brushing dinner, and he dumps a bucket of water onto the pig.
No bath! I slam my fist down onto the table.
Dinner begins to squeal and begins to kick around the room. He knocks over the stool, he knocks over the bucket, knocks over the table, the food goes flying, and Dinner runs out of the stable.
Dinner! And I'll take off running after him as fast as I can.
All right, so you run out of the stable. You hear Bringia and Castor yelling at each other behind you as you take out to the street. The sun has begun to set, and there are large, fat drops of water beginning to fall from the sky as there is a peal of thunder that rings out across the city. As you stare into the darkness, I need you to make a perception check to see if you could see where Dinner has gone.
Perception checks are not my strong point. It's a 3.
All right, you look one way, you look the other way. You can hear the echo of a pig squealing somewhere close by, but it is bouncing back and forth across the various buildings, and you have no idea which direction Dinner has gone.
This is going to confuse and anger me, and I stand there and wring my hands and hop up and down as I start to get angrier and angrier. The veins around my face start to bulge and throb, and I am going to go into an almost rage-like state and screaming, run through anything in my way, just straight ahead.
All right, just a random direction, or you literally want to just go straight?
Going straight.
All right, so straight ahead is going to lead you out of this area near the Teatro Spire and towards some unknown part of this city, a part you are far away from the places that you know. You are not even close, as you could tell, to any sort of sewer or anything that remotely resembles what you have known where you sleep and the family, the sort of family, I should say, that you have at the bump mine. You can look for something like that if you wish.
I know the echoes are all around me and in probably all directions. Does it sound like the echoes are in that direction? If that makes a sense, like if you're in an auditorium and you hear.
Well, you rolled a 3.
Yeah, I go straight.
If you want to try something else, see maybe if you could follow tracks, you're welcome to try that. Or if you want to roll randomly to see if you run in the right direction, or if you literally
Let's roll and see.
Okay, so roll a d6 for me.
Okay. That is a 2.
A 2. So you begin to run, and as the cobblestones flow beneath your feet, you run further and further away from the stable. You leave the shouting of the two youths behind you, and you could still hear the echoing squeals of Dinner, but they sound like they're getting further away and also a little bit distressed.
I will probably... I'm in a blind rage, so I'm not going to stop my momentum. I am just going to shift in the nearest direction of where I think I hear the squeals coming from.
All right, roll another d6.
That is a 3.
A 3. As you shift, just sort of running around, you seem to be making a large arcing circle. What is your passive perception, Blip?
Do I even have one?
give a little bit of a laugh here.
9. Passive perception.
9. So you're just running blindly. The rain is beginning to fall. I imagine there might be a couple tears beginning to well up. You seem to be getting that bath whether or not you wanted it. You still have no idea where dinner could be. Running in a random direction doesn't seem to be working.
If I'm not getting any closer to the sounds of my poor screaming pig, I will eventually start to slow because I will be running out of energy and panting heavily. I will just throw myself down in the street. I'll kick and scream for a few minutes and then lift my face back up. Where's my dinner?
Oh dear. Here in the street, you see water beginning to pool from the rain. It is running off the street to the curb, flowing along the side of the street. And you can see there is a barely arcing bricked arch on the edge of the street where water is beginning to flow into a sewer.
I'll sit up and push myself off the ground and wipe the mud and tears from my face. I go sewer. I'd nod like I think this is a good plan, and I head towards the sewer and try to climb down.
All right. You're able to slip into it without any difficulty. You climb down the short ladder that leads from this entry access point into a roughly tubular or arched ceiling. Looks like the top of this particular sewer has been paved, covered with stones. The bottom of it doesn't seem to have been given that much care. It is muddy and more of a slope as opposed to a ledge, but at the moment there's not too much water in it as the rain has just begun. But as you step in, take a few steps, you see lying on the ground a humanoid figure, not moving.
Take a deep sniffle and wipe my nose, and as I pull it away, there's strings of mucus and snot, and I shake my hand and it flies off and lands on the ground with a splat. I cautiously approach the humanoid and give it a few kicks with my foot.
There's a groan.
I kick it again.
Stop kicking me.
Where's my dinner? What you?
Must warn the Emperor. Attack. Danger at theater.
As this fellow, who as you kick you realize is wearing the same sort of armor that you've seen a lot of the humans who walk around looking very important and strong. You have been told specifically to avoid them, and they are some of the ones who arrested you and have been guarding you ever since the event at the bump mine where you were arrested. This appears to be a similarly dressed individual.
You took dinner. I don't tell no one nothing. You took dinner. You bring back.
Danger at the theater. Must warn.
Blip doesn't know what a theater is.
That's fine.
You see dinner. He run. I gave him another kick.
He groans again and then lies still. At that moment, you hear echoing from further down the sewer the sounds of a squealing pig.
Dinner! I give him another good kick for good measure and take off through any mud and muck towards the sound.
You splash down the sewer towards the sound of your squealing pig. Lhasa, Farron, Anwir. The front of this building, as I described before, is square with columns and many large doors that allow many people to enter or exit at once. And you see people moving in with a little bit of haste as they try to get out of the impending rain. And as you all step out, there is a clearing of space between where you are and the front of the Teatro Spire as guards move to allow the Emperor and his party clear access into the theater. And you all step out and inside. The theater itself is very lavish. It is built mostly of stone, although you can see that the floors and most of the paneling for the walls is made of wood, but it is actually, Farron, as a dwarf, I would like you to make a perception check with advantage.
With advantage, okay.
Yes.
Oh, God. Oh, that's better. I rolled a 2 and a 17, which turns into a 22.
A 22. So, looking at this structure, you can tell immediately that it is old, or at least the stonework is old. It is a beautiful orange marble with flecks and striations of gold inside of the stone. The huge slabs or mason stones make up the walls and the columns, and most of the structure that keeps the large spire that is now above you like a huge vaulted ceiling. You can see the interior of this pyramid that sticks up above you as you come in. It appears to be dwarven make, as far as you can tell. It would be very unusual to see this sort of accuracy in stonework from any other race on Krynn, but very old. It looks like something that is perhaps pre-cataclysm that has then been added onto in the interior with wooden and plaster to create various different spaces inside.
I take it all in and marvel at the grandiose of it. Obviously, clearly knowing it's a dwarven make. Who am I traveling with?
You are with the group that you were eating dinner with for the most part. You could see Anwir and Lhasa, the Emperor, the Empress, their daughter Vatia. Jarvan is not anywhere to be seen. You have not seen him since dinner.
I give Lhasa a nudge in the ribs with my elbow.
Look, boy. Dwarven make.
Oh, yes. Is it? Truly?
Of course it is.
Well, yes, I do suppose your eyes would be best. When do you suppose they made it?
I would have said before the cataclysm.
Oh. Truly.
It's a miracle that it survived, I'd say.
And quite an honor for us to be in the presence of it. I mean, I never expected to get such a close look at dwarven architecture. Not here. Not by any means.
Well, we used to be very, very friendly with the Urgothians. I mean, obviously, if you can imagine, when the actual country split in half, you would have think it would have torn down most of the actual structures.
Yes, a testament to the workmanship here.
Oh, well, yes, nice for you to see. I thought I'd give you a little bit of knowledge.
Thank you. I will always take any knowledge you can provide. And if there is any way I could do the same for you, although...
Oh, you can let me know when we see some elven infrastructure. I probably know it is there anyway. We might see trees and lots of trees, I would have guessed.
Well, yes. Although I did wish to comment on something you had mentioned during dinner. Are you truly are a cleric then?
I don't exactly want to tell everyone on Krynn. Obviously, they're very, very rare.
And I pull out from my toga a symbol which represents a silver griffin wing.
Oh, this is my amulet of Shinari.
Was it of special importance, or perhaps you made it yourself? I've heard tales of such things.
I was gifted this one. Obviously, we had some old broken relics, so this one was my wife's, and it was repaired and given to me.
Oh, how did it become damaged?
Through ages, when the gods, well, when the humans mainly thought that the gods abandoned us, a lot of the amulets were lost or broken, destroyed. With the anger,
Yes,
a lot of people were angry with the gods.
I see. But a splendid gift from your wife, then. I have a token, not from a wife. I have none. But my mother did give me this. And I show the necklace which hangs about my neck.
Oh, very pretty. I
Examine it thoroughly. Is it of gems? And
It is of a silver knotwork. It has a silver chain and has a single green gem in the center. Your eyes would likely notice very easily it is not of elven make.
Oh, it's interesting. I'm a jewelsmith by trade. It's just very, very pretty. Who made it? It's obviously clearly not the elves.
Well, I can't honestly say who made it. My father. It was the only thing that he gave me of my mother. I tried often to speak with him, but it was not a subject that he could tolerate.
No. I'm sorry, boy. I can imagine how hard that is. Well, this truly is a beautiful gift of great craftsmanship.
As you make your way into the lobby of the Teatro Spire, having this conversation, the soldiers are standing by, and as you step in, you can see that some of the other nobility that walking around are handing over various weapons, most of them daggers, ceremonial looking, but people are being disarmed as they step in. There are a few large bins or large crates that people are putting their weapons into, and there are guards standing all around them as everyone steps in. And as you step towards this checkpoint, as it were, Praetor Exios Nitros steps up to you, and you could see him clearly observing the entire group and looking around with his eyes, trying to run the various processes that are going on here that, again, it seems like he is usually on the outside handling all this, being on the inside, the interior, and taking care of, or being taken care of or guarded in this way is not comfortable to him. But he steps forward to you and he says, "You will have to remove your weapons while you are in the theater."
How thoroughly does it look like they are searching people?
Most of the people coming in here are not very well armed. It is, again, mostly ceremonial or cursory, but it's going to take a little bit of doing to sneak in a weapon, especially if it's larger than a dagger.
I will remove my rapier from my person, but there is a dagger on my body, and I will make a scene of removing my rapier as if to signify that that is all I have.
Make a deception check, please.
Let's see if I can roll better than a 4. Nope. Well, yes, I did. I rolled a 5, so that's a total of a 6.
as you put your rapier on the table, and the soldier nods at you as you put it down. He seems to not have noticed anything on you, but as you step away, Aranathus is standing right next to you. It says,
I think it would be best if you obey the customs. If there should be need for a weapon, I'm sure one as resourceful as you will be able to find one.
Henri looks very uncomfortable, but he will quietly remove the dagger and put it on the table and step forward.
You should consider it an honor that you are allowed in the presence of the Emperor armed to begin with.
I stifle a grunt and make it sound like a throat clearing.
as you move further into the theater, Daxon Alatu looks to you all and bows and says, I have a few things I need to take care of. I may not be able to join you for the entirety of the performance, at least not in the Imperial box. I do hope you will forgive me, Emperor. Emperor Reddick nods and says, Of course, without men like you to do the work, how can men like myself have the time to enjoy the theater? Please, you are excused. Daxon Alatu bows and steps away along with his consort. The rest of you are led to a beautiful staircase, splits going in both directions up to a higher level of this theater. The rails are covered in gold leaf. The steps are coated in a luxurious blue carpet that almost looks like velvet. As you step onto it, it muffles the sound of footfalls, and very quietly you ascend from this lobby area up to the balcony of this theater. As you reach the top, you are split. Aranathus, the Emperor, his wife, his daughter, and Praetor Exios head to the right, and it seems that your seats are going to be on the left. Looking around, you see several guards at key positions, bottom of the steps, top of the steps. You move further into the theater and then to another set of stairs that leads up even higher to the private boxes. And as you step out into the auditorium, you can look down and see there are bleachers and benches below you that are filling up with people. As you come into this box with very comfortable seats, you could see below you the stage and the pit where the musicians are stationed. And as you take your seats, you could look across the auditorium and see on the exact opposite side from where you are, the Emperor, his family, Aranathus, and Praetor Exios Nitros. As you take your seats, is there anything you wish to do?
Yes, I would very much like to take the opportunity to scan amongst the instruments and see if there are any that I recognize or any of particular make beyond just finely made, as I would expect.
Sure, make a perception check, please.
It'll be a 12.
You see several instruments that are clearly based on elven design, but most of them seem foreign to you. They have far more instruments that are played with their hands as opposed to with their mouths, which is what you are most used to seeing in the various groups of elves that you've been exposed to.
Additionally, just to be sure that I'm clear, of our group from the dinner, who other than ourselves would be positioned near us?
Near you is just yourselves. There are many people around as they are taking their seats, but in the immediate area where you are, this royal box, it is just the three of you.
In which case, I would lean carefully over to Anwir and whisper into his ear, I think things are going quite well. It seems to me that these noble humans are really not so much different than elves of high standing. They enjoy a good bit of pomp, circumstance, and a well-placed stroking.
You should be proud of yourself, Lhasa. You are handling yourself amongst this group remarkably. I see, or rather, I smell that you have chosen to partake in the oils left out for us this afternoon.
Yes, well, Gwyn and Gwynedd.
Well, I'm grateful to know that if you attempt to slip away unnoticed again this evening, you'll be somewhat easier to find. And I smile at you.
A very deep crimson starts to spread across his face. Yes, I think perhaps keeping such outings to a minimum would be advisable.
I must admit, Lhasa, I'm feeling a bit of anxiety at the prospect of seeing this staged performance.
A look of confusion begins to spread across my face, and I turn more directly towards my companion. Why would you be concerned with the performance? It should be lovely. Do you not enjoy music?
I pause, realizing what I might have just given away, and I shake my head rapidly and say, No, you're right, Lhasa, this will be wonderful. Think nothing of it. And I will sit back in my seat and try to still myself with some deep breaths.
All right. Farron, anything you wish to do, or anything you wish to say?
Would I have overheard any of this?
Possibly. It sounded like they were speaking privately, but
I'd just sit down and look around and take in the surroundings.
It's quite a big show, isn't it?
Quite possibly the most impressive thing I've ever seen. I have to admit I've never been able to attend.
Oh, no, nor me, boy. I hope they do refreshments.
I see you weren't satiated by the generous feasting, but
We've walked quite far since then. I've burnt off a few of those meals.
I suppose that is true. And while I cannot point out any wonderful architecture to you, I can say that some of these instruments clearly have inspiration from elves, although perhaps it is best I don't say, but they're not quite as elegant.
Oh, elegant, are they? I've no idea. I've never had the pleasure.
Well, we shall have to remedy that at some point. When your business is concluded here, perhaps you could join us sometime.
I would love that.
Oh, surely, though, you must make journey back home. Your wife must be terribly worried for you. You've been gone so many weeks, you said.
Yes, yeah. I've been gone a while. I'll head back soon once business is done here. Where do you boys head back to?
Oh, wherever duty would call us next, I would think. I would not presume that our journey will simply end here. My master is, well...
As you are about to complete that statement, Lhasa, the drums sound from back of the hall, and some of the lamps in this well-lit auditorium are extinguished as the orchestra begins to tune and the opera is about to begin. Backstage, Manto and Tiri, you are caught up in the excitement and energy of the beginnings of whatever this evening is going to be. People are rushing, doing last-minute adjustments, makeup, costumes, set pieces, and props. You look around and you can see that there are other people in costume as well. You see somebody who is obviously meant to be elvish, who has tan leather clothes and a long bow. You see a man who is very thin but very tall, wearing armor that is similar to yours, Manto, but it is of more of a golden hue. And you see several women, which is interesting, as it's not often that you will see women wearing clothes that are different from the restrictive palas that they are most accustomed to wearing outside of the lower classes. Dancers being, of course, the exception. But you see some that are dressed in clothes that are of a very strange and they seem to be much more revealing, for one, Manto, than you are accustomed to seeing, but also much less restrictive. But they are still clearly costumes. A woman with a wig that is very curly and dark that runs down to her shoulders, wearing a costume that would be appropriate to some sort of laborer, but seems to be also meant to accentuate her feminine features. And you see a woman who is wearing a beautiful robe made of what appears to be rabbit skin, and she is carrying a staff that has blue paint that has colored all of it. The last to arrive is a short individual wearing an absolutely gorgeous silken red robe. His cowl is pulled over his head, and his skin is painted golden. It is a impressive costume, and clearly he has had a great deal of work done on his makeup. Well, you're not able to get a very good look at his face. Accompanying him, coming in from the back, are several of the Imperial Guard, including one that has on his face the tattoos that you see most Argothians wearing, but these are yellow, not the most common dye that you have seen for the tattoos on the Argothian people. As these preparations are underway, is there anything that you wish to do?
I begin to put the green tunic on already over the top of my clothes, and try and hide the fact that I'm wearing my clothes still underneath.
Unfortunately, that has the effect of making you look rather large.
That's fine.
But not going to be too much of a problem in terms of restricting you or giving you problems on stage.
And then I will just be sticking relatively close to Manto because he is who I'm familiar with.
All right.
But just kind of prepping, making sure I'm hiding that I'm still wearing my clothes underneath and getting ready. And I have kind of a mischievous grin on my face.
All right. Manto?
So, were we ever introduced to the other performers of the epic party? Are those performers here as well?
The other people, it doesn't appear like... How familiar do you think Manto is with the tales of the heroes of the Lance, as it were?
Yes, Manto absolutely knows these tales inside and out. I was merely asking that if we needed to know the other performers, if we were entering as a group or anything like that.
So, make an insight check, please, Manto.
That is 17.
Pretty good. You get the impression that it's not going to be very difficult, what they want you to do.
Okay.
You're going to kind of follow the group, enter when they enter, and occasionally somebody is likely to sort of whisper to you, move here, or stop, that sort of thing. And as long as you keep your wits about you, this should not be a problem.
Great. Do I see Berenzi running the whole show? I mean, I know he was the creator, but is there a separate director?
It appears that if there is a director, it is Berenzi.
Hold on, I just need to check my charisma real quick. I am going to go up to, if he is backstage, Berenzi.
Okay.
Sir, I just want to say that it is a great honor to be a part of this performance, and portraying the valiant efforts of Storm Brightblade. I am quite curious, why is it you changed the names of the characters in your show from who they were in real life?
I assure you, these names have been well researched, and the Emperor has made many changes himself.
Ah. Okay. Well, the stories are very well known here. I know we are far from where many of these campaigns took place, but are you not afraid that your audience is going to realize?
I have faith that the beauty of the music and we will do our best, will we not?
It is as you say. We will do our best, and I have faith in what you have created.
I peek out from behind Manto's legs
Ah!
and just speak.
And at least they're all completely wrong, because then at least there's consistency.
See, I thought it was on purpose, exactly.
Me too, honestly. I really did.
Very carefully researched and vetted. At any rate, please, everyone,
Claps his hands.
gather round.
He steps forward and raises his hands to the roof and begins to speak in a declarative fashion.
Songmaster, many seasons have passed since prayers to you were spoken in this place. Humbly, we speak them now, and invite you to look with favor upon our performance. Great Bran, you brought art to the people of Krynn and taught us of music and poetry. Your gifts bring color to the grayest of days and expression to our most inscrutable feelings. No note can be clear enough, no word deep enough, and no work pure enough to adequately express our gratitude. If even a single moment of our effort here is pleasing to you, we pray that you will give us a sign of your approval. We look for your return, O Bard King. Everyone, to your places, and may the gods be with us.
As everyone takes their places, Teely, Manto, is there anything you wish to do?
Just some last minute fumbling of some pouches, transferring some things into my pockets for easier access. But that's about it.
All right. Manto?
I will simply look down at Teely and just give her kind of a sly wink.
Music swells. Curtain opens, rising straight up, revealing scene of a tavern or an inn. But it is odd in that one entire side of this particular set appears to be composed of the trunk of an enormous tree. And hanging down over the roof of this tavern, you could see enormous branches with decorations that would suggest leaves. As the orchestra begins a jaunty tune, and there is a man sitting in the middle of this tavern with a large bucket of potatoes, which he is washing. He sings,
Scrub them well, now let's begin. Trim the eyes, but leave the skin. Cut them into half-inch bits. Steam them well if time permits. My potato dish is flawless. It's the spiciest in solace. Hungry guests will soon be here. There's not a better place to eat or have a beer.
and the opera begins. After a few moments, as this individual finishes his song, you feel a prod on your back, Manto, as it is your turn to enter.
I will make my way out of the wings, walking onto stage,
with thumbs up from me.
Back and just very stoic, coming in with just enormous stage presence.
Very well. As you confidently take the stage, there is a throat clearing behind you, Teely, and you look and you can see the singer, Ham Tonsus, taking a deep breath from his seat where he is unable to walk the stage, being injured. He begins to sing as Manto gestures. For 5 years I've been away, seeking hope for honor lost, but this armor and my father's sword are all there is, the rest is dust. Esularus, oath be thus. As Manto steps on stage, Anwir, you see a familiar symbol on this actor's shield.
And hearing the oath, I grow very pale, and I begin to sweat.
There's murmuring and talk and applause after each of these performances. During the breaks, there's opportunities to briefly speak to each other. So as Manto, or as Storm Bigblade, I should say, concludes their piece, does anybody wish to say anything?
Truly is spectacular, is it not?
He's got a nice voice, I must admit.
Yes, as I turn to face Anwar and see this stress on him, my friend, I say as I reach out and gently touch his shoulder as he has done for me many times. It is beautiful, is it not? Are you sure that nothing is wrong?
I must have eaten something that didn't agree with me, Lhasa. Excuse me.
He is looking a bit pale.
And I will stand up and walk out of the box.
All right, you step out of the box. There's a curtain that blocks the back of this little partition from the rest of the backstage, or I should say, not backstage, the rest of the passageway that leads back to the lobby.
Is there an area where one can wash their face, take care of business, so to speak? How do restrooms work in Northern Ergoth?
There is a servant standing there who looks at you with concern and says, Sir, is there anything that I can do for you?
A restroom.
Yes, there is a privy outside of the theater, but you may have difficulty returning. Can I bring you something? Unless, of course, you really do need to visit the privy. I can't bring you that.
Water, please.
Water, yes, of course, sir. I will bring it right away.
He hurries off shortly after that returns with a big basin of water. As you are washing yourself, you can hear the sound of a woman's voice, a character named Tiki, who is having a bit of a flirtatious duet with Storm Bigblade. As all of this is happening, I would like a deception check from you, Anwir.
Let's see if I can roll better than a 5.
You're using digital dice.
I'm using digital
That's
dice, and I
why.
believe that they are cursed.
You fool!
Never trust the digital dice.
I don't. An 11.
So, Lhasa, it's entirely possible that Anwir has actually eaten something that has not agreed with him, but you suspected something more.
Farron.
Yes, boy.
You don't suppose I ought to check on him, do you?
Well, it definitely wasn't the food, boy.
Oh.
So yes, I would suggest having a quick look for him.
Well, yes, of course. You'll have to let me know what I've missed.
As you step out to speak with Anwir, Manto, as you move around on stage, you're not having any trouble or staying out of the way of people, but this duet you were not expecting, and this woman named Tiki, or playing the character of Tiki, who moves back and forth, she is crowding you. I'm going to need a... let's see here. I don't want to make this a performance check, because you're not necessarily performing, but I am going to... let's see.
Sleight of foot.
Sleight of foot.
Acrobatics.
I think we're going to stick with acrobatics to see if you are able to be in the right place at the right time, or at least not in the wrong place.
Yes, that is a dirty 20.
Well, you are born for the stage, Manto.
I was born for the stage.
Any peek you get into the wings, you just see myself like clapping, raising my arms in joy, and then when I see this kind of flirtatious exchange, just kind of winks and points like, yeah.
You can see, Teely, that as he sings, the singer Ham Tonsus is beginning to sort of make disgruntled sounds and look a little perturbed, as Manto seems to be doing this very well, conveying quite a bit of character through the armor and the helmet that he is wearing. It is a very impressive display of mime and body acting. So, as the duet concludes, before we get to Lhasa and Anwir, a short, very hairy character comes on, his face completely obscured by a poorly made false beard and wig. It looks to be just pieces of cotton wool stuck onto some form of fabric. He has a very large false nose which sticks out far over the beard, and he comes forward and begins to sing.
By my beard you can see that I'm dwarven, and that means that I live underground. On the surface all people are foreign, so I greet everyone with a frown.
As he finishes concluding, there's a great deal of laughter and applause.
I don't remember there being a gully dwarf in the actual companions.
And now, on the other side of this curtain, Anwir and Lhasa.
I slowly approach and place my hand on his shoulder again. Anwir, I know you said you needed a moment, but I can't leave you alone like this. You've helped me so much already. At least let me do the same for you if I can.
At your touch, I jump, startled, and catch myself. And I look at you and I say, please, don't miss this performance on my account. I'm fine, Lhasa. I just need some time.
There will be many performances if I have anything to say about it. Maybe not this show, but others. And besides, a moment like this only comes up every so now and again. And, well, forgive me saying so, but if I meant to put my trust in you and to let you do what you've already done and continue to do, then I must have some way to repay it, and I have to understand you as well.
Lhasa, if you trust me, go back out to that box. Your role here is as a diplomat, and we are in direct line of sight of the Emperor. Your absence will be noticed. Mine will not. Please. I'm fine.
You know, I suppose I expect it to some degree. You wouldn't know it, but I'm always sent away. So I'll leave you to it. And I turn and leave, rather briskly at that.
Leave as in
Oh, back to the box. I apologize.
Okay. You are free to go if that is what you wish to do. But yes, it would look very poorly. So you return to the box.
There you are, boy. They got one of their heroes wrong. They made him a gully dwarf.
Well, I suppose maybe some details were lost in all of the commotion.
Well, they only had one chance to get the dwarf right. Oh, how's your friend?
He's doing well. Just said that I ought to enjoy things here and that it might be best if I continue to make my presence known. So.
He seems like your friend's very wise.
Make an insight check, Farron, if you don't mind.
My passive is 15.
Well,
That's why I jumped in on the
gotcha.
knowing that something was wrong. But I rolled a 12 plus 5, 17.
17. So, yeah, absolutely. Something's clearly wrong, but doesn't seem to be a huge issue at the moment. And there's plenty of entertainment to keep you distracted. But as you turn back to the opera, we are going to change our focus to Blip. Blip, you run down this dark and smelly, I was going to say, but it probably is actually very comforting to you. So this entirely pleasant and welcoming sewer, you run down towards the sound of the squealing pig. You come around a corner and you see that it is not a pig at all. It is a old man stooped over pulling a cart, and as the wheels turn on the cart, there's a sound as they turn, as he is pulling it along the sewer coming towards you. There appears to be a great deal of trash and debris on the back of it. Maybe he's here collecting treasures. Who knows? He looks over at you. He's wearing a cap that comes far over his face. Skin is dark, and you could see him looking at you with bright eyes as he reaches down, pulls out a lamp, and opens the covering on it, revealing light that shines on your face.
Who's that there then?
I'll squint at the sudden light and skid to a stop. You have my dinner.
Dinner? No, nothing here to eat, little lady.
No, you have my dinner. I hear him. You give.
He looks at the cart behind him and looks at you.
Are you lost?
No, you give dinner now. I start to tense up and clench my hands together.
If you want dinner, little lady, you're gonna need to go up there.
He points a very dirty finger straight up.
No food down here fit to eat. At least none that I've seen.
No, no food. Not hungry. Dinner, my friend.
Dinner. Up.
I look at him suspiciously for a minute, and I'll shift back and forth. And then I'll dart past and try to find a way to get back up. I'll start to climb the wall.
As you go past him, you see right past him there is a ladder that is leading up out of the sewer.
I'll put my hand on the ladder and I'll look back. You sure? Dinner up?
Dinner up. No dinner here, little lady.
I know, lady. I Blip.
Pleasure to meet you, Blip. I'm Ulf.
Oog?
Ulth.
Oop?
Close enough.
He removes his hat, hits it on his hand a couple of times. You could see that he is bald, and there are whorls and designs all over his face, all over his nose, all over his head, to the point that you can't really tell if it's dirt on his face or actually just he has that many tattoos. He grins at you, and you could see his teeth in the light. He says,
I hope you find your dinner, Blip.
I'll cock my head at him and stare at him for a moment, and you got pretty art.
Why, thank you.
He looks down, rummages around in the pile of garbage that he has in his cart, picks something up, tosses it to you.
I'll reach my hands out to catch it.
It is a wilted flower, although it still has some color to it. Yellow, a little bit of blue on the interior.
I'll look up and my lip will start to quiver and my eyes will get all big and wet. Pretty. For me?
Yeah.
I will take it, my grubby, dirty little hands, and jam it into my matted hair as best as I can.
Now you're fit for the theater. Good day, Blip.
He begins to wheel away, and you hear,
Dinner. I scramble up the ladder as fast as I can.
They better get married is all I'm saying. I need it to happen.
You go up the ladder. There is a door, a trap door at the top.
I'm probably scrambling so fast I will actually bump into it.
So you bump into the door. You rub your head. It didn't give when you bumped into it, so we're going to need an athletics check to open it.
That is a 19.
Excellent. So you get to the top of this ladder, you push on the trapdoor, and it moves a bit, and then you have to reorient yourself, and you put your back on the bottom of it, and you push with your arms and legs against the ladder, maintaining your balance as you push up the trapdoor, and you hear something clatter to the ground onto the floor on the other side of whatever it is you're coming into, as you apparently knocked something over as you pushed up the trapdoor. There's a...
I pay no attention as I bust the door open and jump through it. Dinner!
You jump into this room. It's quiet. There's a lot of large structures that have strange canvas sheets over them, looking like very grumpy-looking ghosts or statues with melting faces. Hard to see. They all have these shrouds. It's dark, it's dusty, and quiet.
I freeze immediately. I glance around. I take a few steps forward, glance around, reach for my bone maul, which is no longer there, and what I assume to be a quiet voice, but it's really not. I will whisper yell, "Dinner!"
All right, make a perception check, please.
Why would you do this to me?
Well, I gotta know.
Why would you do this to me?
You wanted to play the Gully Dwarf.
Oh. That's a 14. Eat it, ghosts.
14. As you say this name into the darkness and listen, you don't hear a pig, but you do hear voices nearby. They are coming from your right.
I'll whip around and turn to my right. I'll start to shake. What that?
Just muffled voices. Sounds like it might be coming from not this room, but somewhere nearby.
I'll slowly back away and try to go through the room and weave through all of these, but try to stay away from the voices.
as you start to walk away from the voices, backing away from the voices, I'm going to need a, let's see here, dexterity saving throw.
Immensely concerned. Dexterity saving throw. Oh god. I use digital dice for math purposes and that's a 4.
You step on a part of this shroud that is covering one of these structures. You have no idea what's underneath it, but as you do, you slip and the shroud begins to fall down, and with it, whatever's underneath it, which begins to sort of lean over, and it crashes to the ground right behind you.
Uh-oh.
Sounds like armor or soldiers or something coming to get you, as you can hear the continued crashing of various other things that sort of fall in this room, things that have been sort of stacked upon one another that crash to the ground.
I scrambled back away from all this, and I look left and right and frantically look for anywhere I can hide.
Okay, roll a stealth check for me, Blip.
Alright, give me just a second. Don't fail me now. Nat 20!
Nice. Excellent. You see, half hidden behind some rolled up canvas curtains, an area like a crawl space between this room and the next, a vent or perhaps an old drain, just a little area in the wall that connects this room to the room beyond it, and it's a perfect place for you to hide.
That where I go.
You run away from the sound of this crashing and falling furniture or guards or who knows what, and you hear these voices again. And it seems clear it is coming from the room directly next to the one you are currently in. And as you crouch down in your hiding space, you can look out and see many feet, boots. The other room, you see 1 set, 2 sets, 3 sets.
1 and 1 and 1.
You see them shuffling around, and you hear a voice. Did you hear that? It's fine. Don't worry about it. There's a knock on the door. There's a knock on a door, I should say. And then the sound of it being opened gently. You can see light that enters into this room, and you hear another voice. Who are you? And then another voice as it steps into the room, and you can see, whereas the rest of these individuals in here have boots, this person has wearing the open-toed footwear that you most commonly see in Gwynedd. My name is Lord Daxon Elatu. You must be Ganter. We was expecting your son. Indeed. Phidias suffered serious injury in a recent fight and is resting. He's a bit delirious and revealed to me some disturbing plans he was to be involved with this night. My lord, be at ease. Lucky for you, I happen to agree with his aims. Really? Yes, a bit of mischief tonight in the name of the so-called Arms of Vinas will definitely persuade the Emperor to take a stronger stance against the Mishikites and their seditious servants. I have fulfilled my son's promised aid to you, but so many of you. Far more than I was expecting. Surely 3 or 4 are all that is needed. A bit of filth thrown from the shadows, perhaps some vandalism to the grand staircase. This money will give the impression of open rebellion, especially if... Why are you armed? There is a pause, and then a quick shuffle of feet as you could see people moving very quickly to surround this sandaled individual. There is a gasp and a grunt, and sound of something wet hitting the ground, and you hear another voice. If it's any consolation, my lord, you've spared your son this fate, at least for a while. And then there is a crashing, collapsing sound as you see the face of the man who arrested you in the bump mine land, eyes staring, unblinking, at your hiding space. There is a nervous shuffling of feet from the room beyond. And, well, I think that's our cue. Let's go see what a night at the opera really is. And the feet begin to scatter. Our attention turns now back to the opera. Anweir, do you rejoin the group after a while?
Yes, I will sit down, but how many seats are in the booth, DM?
There are 3, but you have seen spare chairs outside. There can be more added if you wish.
I will sit at the entrance to in the room between the curtain and the booth itself. I will sit at the top of the stairs to view what I can, but to make an opportunity to leave if I need to again.
The opera has continued as one by one various companions have entered into the scene here in this tavern and have sung both singly and with others. And now it is time for Tasselhood's big entrance as you are given the cue to go on, Teely, and you take the stage.
I enter out with a mischievous grin on my face, a little bit of a skip in my step, and I look towards my new audience.
Oh yes, it's full. You are looking out into the faces of hundreds of people. Perhaps you're not able to see much beyond the footlights, so you could see like the first 2 or 3 rows of people actually looking at the opera, and then beyond that, just indiscriminate faces, and then shadows, and then darkness.
Let's do this, okay?
I look around and clutch a hold of my hupak that they allowed me to bring. And then I will begin to sing and also be kind of dancing along to my own words. Did you want me to do my rendition?
I do want you to do your rendition if you don't mind.
I'm nervous. All right, okay, let's do this.
I'm so excited.
I'm called Little Tasselhood, I'm known for being good, Kender's share none is mine. I help all from young to old, I am both cute and yet bold, just like the rest of my kind.
At this point, I strip off the costume that I was given, revealing my big skirt and my colorful outfit underneath, and begin to continue singing.
With elegant graces, I leap into places. With my skirt, see how it flows. Please think long and in depth. Cut hair or thrown to death. Don't let us all stay foes.
And at this point, I will reach into my pockets and throw a concoction of glitter and petals and just little, almost like beads that look like jewels, as I throw them among the stage and look up and kind of hold my breath in hesitation to hear the crowd's response.
Very nice. Roll a performance check for me, Teely, with advantage for that excellent rendition.
Thank you. That is a 17 plus 5, so that is 22.
There's a smattering of applause in the audience that grows as your performance was excellent, but even more impressive is the illusion of an actual Kender being on stage. What a performance. What an incredible illusion of theatrical, astounding properties that have been bestowed upon the audience here in the Teatro Spire. And as you finish, you can look down and you can see the conductor, Saunders, just glowering at you as you have completely changed his lyrics and misrepresented the entire point of the character of Tasselhood, at least in his eyes.
I look down at him, give him a little wink, and then stick my tongue out at him. And then I skip off the stage.
Very nice. It is at this moment that the performer playing Raceland comes in. Manto, you note that for whatever reason, this particular name has not been mangled. He steps forward and music begins to play. Raises his arms and reveals his golden skin. Anwir, with your passive perception and the fact that being as far back away from the chairs as you are, that you don't have a particularly good look at the stage. You're much more likely to see the backs of the heads of the people sitting in the box in front of you, and then, of course, looking across the way at the people in the box on the other side of the auditorium. There's a little bit of commotion on the other box. You could see that there's a bit of tension in the shoulders of the Emperor.
When you say commotion, what is it specifically that I'm noticing?
There's, as I said, some tension, some tightening. You can see the Emperor sort of sits straighter in his chair, as does his wife, as they watch the stage.
Can I attempt a perception check to see if I can get more detail than that?
Sure.
All right, I'm going to roll actual dice this time to see if it makes a difference. Nope, that's a 2. So it's 2 plus 7 is 9.
Still shaken from whatever happened earlier, you see that there's some sort of reaction that is perhaps not one of enjoyment from across the other way, but exactly what is going on, you do not know. The individual performing the part of Raceland raises their hands, and there is sparks and fire that erupts from the front of the stage. Nothing too damaging, but a little surprising. Loud pops and the smell of sulfur as the lights dim and the character raises their hands to begin performing. Lhasa, as you are watching this, there is a voice in your head and you see the familiar fading of the scene in front of your eyes, and you see the silhouette of your master appear in front of your face. Lhasa, during the coming conflict, it is imperative that you stay close to the prince. He is the individual on stage with the golden skin. Do not be distracted by other things that happen. Get to his side and stay there. Get him to safety.
Yes, I understand. With that, I stand up from my chair immediately. Farron?
What, you're missing this bit?
I fear there is much more that we will miss. If you would join me, I have a task which I must complete urgently. Anwir, please, we must get down to the side of the stage as quickly as possible.
As he says these things, you can see that there's a little bit of commotion happening in the audience as the sparks from this special effect, this pyrotechnical display, seem to have caught as there are other people who are batting away at flames that are appearing at various parts in the theater. At first it appears to be nothing serious, but all of a sudden there is a large conflagration of light that bursts up from the back of the theater as an enormous flame reaches up right near the exit, illuminating the rest of the auditorium. And there are shouts, gasps of fear, screams of pain and alarm as the theater appears to be on fire. There is shouting from across the way as there are appearing in the royal box away from you figures wearing dark clothing that are fighting with the guards that are nearby the Emperor. And as the flames crackle and the audience panics, the prospect of deadly combat seems inevitable. I would like everyone to roll initiative.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. I am cursed today.
Do you know what? Tell us what you want to roll and we'll roll it for you.
Right? This is out of control. I have rolled single digits except for one roll, and most of them have been 5 or below.
Oh, buddy, no, I'm sorry.
These things happen.
Yes.
If it makes you feel better, I rolled a 4.
Well, a 4.08.
Yeah, I feel a bit better now.
Beautiful, beautiful 10.
Myself as well.
At the top of the order, we have Teely. It is impossible for you to mistake the large explosion or large burst of flame that rises up in the back. It is bright. You see it clearly, and you can see the entire audience silhouetted in front of it. As it does go up, you can see that moving forward through the audience are individuals wearing dark clothing. They appear to be armed. There are several that are coming up onto the stage that have short swords, and then others that are standing in the audience, raising bows, ready to fire at individuals both on stage and in the audience.
I am going to... Is there anyone who looks like they're coming from me specifically?
No.
No. Okay. I will...
Actually, if you wish, you may make a perception check to see who they might be going for.
I will do that.
All right, go for it.
That's a 3 on the dice, so I don't think it's going to be great.
3 on the dice. You have a total of...
That is 7.
All right, you have no idea who they might be going for.
I run on over next to Manto and reach into one of my pouches and pull out a small rock that I will place in the sling of my hoopak. I, keeping a little bit of distance, will begin to spin the hoopak, and it makes that ghostly whistle, high-pitched noise. And I try and aim at an assassin who is in front of me. Let me roll my sling. That's a 9 to hit.
All right, a 9 does not hit as you swing your hoopak and the rock goes flying into the audience, missing the assassin.
Sorry!
Very good. Anything else from you, Teely?
I pat Manto on the leg. And I just say,
I know it's not a real sword, but you got this.
and I will give you some bardic inspiration. You have 1d6.
Thank you.
Appropriately, Manto, it is your turn next.
Yes. So I will raise this sword in the air and I'm banging it on the shield. And at the top of my lungs, I will yell, Est solaris ot mithas!
Very nice. This sword in your hand is not going to be useful as an actual sword. It counts as a club for the purposes of this combat, if you wish to continue using it.
I very much, obviously, am happy to have something in my hands, but my goal is going to be, as quickly as possible, disarm one of these assassins to take their sword.
I completely understand. It makes perfect sense. They are coming at you, and as you are getting ready to fight, you can hear the sound of a door or something opening behind you.
So you said this is the equivalent of a great club?
Equivalent of a club, so that you can actually use it and your shield if you wish.
Okay, great.
Also, this armor that you are wearing, although it is designed to look like plate mail armor, is actually no more effective than the armor that you were wearing while you were in the bump mine.
So I am... Jeez, those are really the stats for a club. Oh my goodness. Like at this point, my unarmed strike is almost better.
If it makes you feel any better, I have no weapons, no spells, and my unarmed strike does 0 damage, so good luck.
Yes. with this club, I am going to attack the assassin that is closest to me. Is that the one that Teely had just attacked?
Yes, that would definitely be the one closest to you. He's climbing up over the edge of the stage, trying to get onto the same surface as you all are to attack with his short sword.
Okay, so he is climbing up with the sword in one hand and, like, his hands on the stage, still mid-climb?
Yeah, the stage is not that high up, so he's able to put one hand on it. It looks like he's about to vault up onto the stage with the rest of his body, holding the short sword in his other hand.
Okay. I am going to then, taking this wooden sword that I have, I am going to strike him right on the head, attempting to dazzle him or daze him so I can grab his sword from his other hand.
Go for it. Roll your attack.
Yes. So that is going to be 15 to hit.
That is a hit.
Great. So that's the club, so that's just a D4. That is going to be 5 points of damage, of clubbing damage, to try and knock him out.
Very good. As the club comes crashing down, are you purposely doing non-lethal damage?
Oh no, I'm purposely, since I can't stab or slash or anything, I'm specifically targeting the head, knowing that that's where I can do the most damage with this club weapon, and also hoping that by dazing him, I have enough time to be able to grab the actual sword from his hand. However you would like that to play out, though, DM, I will defer to you.
All right, well, you do smack him in the head with your, or you try to smack him in the head with your club, but as he climbs on, he's able to dodge out of the way of most of the blow, taking it on his shoulder. You do hear a crack, and he grunts as he climbs up. You look at him, and you see that his entire face is covered with a dark cloth, as is his head, and there is a dark patch painted around his eyes, so his face is entirely black. As he comes up, he brings out the short sword to attack you. You have not done enough damage to knock him senseless, but you have damaged him.
Okay, I would like to action surge.
All right.
And I'm going to go in for another attack.
Don't forget you have your bardic inspiration.
And I am going to roll that. So that is going to be 13 to hit.
That is a hit.
Oh, it is? Okay, wonderful. So that is going to be 4 points of damage.
Okay. Another crack. You hit him, but he's able to dodge to the side as well. As you hit his other shoulder, he grunts, pulling himself up onto the stage, up to a standing position, but he is still there, although he is looking very wobbly.
And that is my turn, and watching him wobble, I'm just going to raise this very lovely shield in front of me, which I assume has the same stats as my other shield for the purpose of this combat.
Correct.
Okay, great. Yeah, so then I'm just going to get a defensive position with the shield in front of me.
All right, so after hitting him twice with your fake sword, he has definitely withered under the blows, but he's still standing as he steps up and steadies himself and tries to slice at you with the short sword. Blow comes down, hitting AC 19 for a hit, I do believe.
That will hit, yes.
Doing 3 points of slashing damage against you. As he finishes his attack on you, Manto, the other fellow moving off of the bottom part of the audience and up onto the stage, completes his vault and begins to run towards the person playing Raceland, who puts up their hands in a defensive position. The assassin comes forward and attempts to attack him, but he turns his blade to try and hit it with the flat to knock this person senseless as opposed to do damage, and he is missed with an 8. As he finishes his blow, the back of the stage, there is a creaking sound as a trapdoor opens in the floor, and out creep 2 other assassins, which move into the room, one towards you, Teely, the other one towards the fellow playing Raceland. Both of them concluding their action by moving onto the stage. In the audience, there are arrows that begin to fly. You can see as they fly out of the assassins' bows, there is flame and light on the front of them as they appear to be trying mostly to create other fires by firing the arrows into tapestries and other things that look flammable as opposed to trying to hit other people. There is a great deal of screaming and commotion from the other side of the auditorium and the shout of, "To the Emperor! To the Emperor! Protect the Emperor!" as the individuals on the other side of the auditorium begin to deal with foes of their own. It's going to be their turn. That brings us to the fellow who is backstage who entered with the person playing Raceland as he runs forward to the individual's side, wielding a longsword, brings it down, hitting AC 20, doing 8 points of slashing damage, which nearly takes off the arm of the individual that just tried to attack this person. That is his turn. That brings us to Blip. Blip, you are underneath this all, although you have no way of knowing it. You have seen the feet in front of you scatter this way and that, and you have heard the sound of an opening door of some sort above where you are currently hidden. The room empties, and you are suddenly alone.
I'm going to make sure there's no one around me, and I'm going to jump up, I'm going to brush myself off, and then I'm going to dash into that room.
You dash into this room, looking around. There is a door that is open in the room that leads into parts unknown. You are now definitely out of the sewer. You're not sure what sort of structure you're in. Looking above you, there is an open hatch that leads out of the ceiling. There is a ladder that leads up to it, and you can see figures disappearing outside, and you can hear the grunt of combat. And
where's my bone club? We'll have to make a new one.
Would you like to make a perception check to see if there's anything nearby you could use as a weapon?
Yes, but you know I hate you for that because my perception sucks. That is an 11. That's a -1. It's an 11.
An 11. You look around, you see a large piece of wood. It looks like it might have been, at one point, the leg of some sort of table, but it is just lying on its side, thrown into a corner and forgotten. Could serve as a useful club.
I will pick that up.
All right. As you pick up this club, you can hear the shout of Manto ringing down from above you. Essularus Othbithas, as your friend is above you.
So, quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Has Blip heard this before? Is this common for Manto to shout out?
That is a good question, Manto.
I probably would not have shouted it out during one of the combat things, but you definitely would have heard me talking ad nauseum about the War of the Lance and the Knights of Solemnia and Lorana and Sturm Brightblade. So you, if you remembered, would have definitely heard this before.
And regardless, it is definitely Manto's voice, so...
Whirling around, I'm going to look for the source of his voice, and if I can pinpoint Blip, Blip Bonk, and I'll wave the club around, and in a chopping motion going up and down really fast. Blip Bonk! And I'm going to charge towards the sound of his voice.
All right, so that is up the ladder, basically following the dark figures that you've just seen exit from this room up out of the hatch that leads apparently up onto the stage as you appear right behind where these assassins have also come up. But Blip, that is your turn.
Fantastic.
All right, that brings us to Lhasa.
So, just to be clear here, how far from where we are in the box to the stage itself, vertically?
From where you are in the box now, you look down to the stage. It is 25 feet from where you are currently sitting down, and then another further 6 feet from the stage to the floor. Then right in front of the floor is a pit where the musicians were sitting that is another 15 feet down.
Excellent. Firstly, I raise up from the seat immediately and... Farron, Anwir, the man on stage in the gold. He is the prince. We must defend him. Everyone else will have to fend for themselves. This rabble can handle themselves. And with that, I take up a stance, shoulder width apart about, and begin to rotate my hands, palm over palm, in a spiral. And as I do so, I speak. By fates that have been, by fates that will be, thus my heart will strike at thee. And 3 crackling, undulating bolts of energy begin to take form in between my palms, lacing out at a blinding speed towards the assassin who was recently taken by surprise with the sword of the man rushing onto the stage to the side of the prince.
Yes, I see. So you are attacking the one that has missed the prince and then was attacked by the soldier.
Correct.
Got it. So as you cast your spell, the power shoots out from you, arcing across the stage, and blasts into this individual. Please roll your damage.
That will be 11 damage.
The first strike hits him in the side. He doubles over, dropping his weapon. The second one hits him in his head, and he collapses. The third one hits the limp body as the soldier gasps in surprise and looks squinting up into the box where the power came from, and then turns to continue to defend as one of these assassins has been killed. Anything else, Lhasa?
With a smirk of satisfaction, I begin to move myself towards the hallway and staircase that will lead me down and out of this box.
Just to be clear, that was magic missile?
Yes, it was.
Very good. Excellent. Anwir.
My eyes grow quite wide at the power that emanated from my friend's hands. But I take a minute to steel myself. Not a minute, I take a second to steel myself. And I look around the box, and I'm going to duck down below the curtain and hide first, if I may, with my bonus action.
Very well. Please roll a stealth check.
I rolled a 3, so I got an 8.
Anwir, something in the air is just not agreeing with you. As you do duck down, but as you do, you misjudge the fact that the seats that you are sitting in were a little bit further down, so they're even further down from the floor that you were standing on. So as you duck down, you are not able to get far enough down to make yourself a unseen target.
In my inability to hide myself, I will take my hand and grab it around the arm of one of the chairs, and I'm going to throw it over the lip of the box at the assassin that is currently facing Monto, about 20 feet away from me.
Well, the chairs are not that heavy. However, it is going to be quite a toss in order to get it the 20 feet that it needs to fly. So, I think first I would like you to roll a strength check to see if you are actually going to be able to just complete with one hand, just throw this.
You hate me. Okay, all right. Strength check. Nope. I rolled a 9. How heavy are these chairs?
That doesn't prevent you from throwing it, so now go ahead and roll your attack.
Okay, is that just a simple d20, I assume?
Yes.
All right.
And then you would be adding your dexterity modifier on top of it.
Oh, there we go. I rolled above a 10. I got a 13 plus 3. That's a 16.
So your aim is true as you throw the chair, but you just did not have the strength, the arm strength, to wield this very unwieldy makeshift weapon as it crashes to the ground 10 feet shy of the assassin.
Well, all right. Then with my movement If I may, I'm going to leap over the balcony and dangle from the lip with one hand to minimize the distance that I'm going to fall. So hopefully that I will be falling 20 feet instead of 25.
So as you come to the lip to look across the auditorium, and you can see that there is a bit of fabric or curtain as the motif of the curtain on the front of the stage continues around to just below the box, looking across the auditorium. You can assume that it is the same underneath the box you are sitting in. So as you leap over the side, you do in fact see there is curtain directly underneath you.
I will attempt to climb down the curtain.
If you want to go at half speed, I will allow you to just climb down. If you want to try and move your entire speed, I will need a athletics check.
I will do it at half speed for safety purposes with one hand.
You grip tightly with your legs and begin to shuffle down, moving with one hand coming down the curtain. So half speed, that is 15 feet. At the end of your turn, you are 10 feet above the stage.
I will drop to the stage.
You land on the stage, 10 feet for free. Please make an acrobatics check.
All right. Well, there's a good time for a crit. I got a 23 on my acrobatics check.
Not only do you land on your feet, but you manage to make yourself look extremely impressive as you do. You are now on the stage, ready for action without a weapon in hand.
Indeed.
Theron, it is your turn.
How can I get down quickly?
Well, you could attempt to do what Anweir just did. It is 25 feet, jumpable, but you will probably take damage.
How would I get down the normal way?
If you were to go the way you came, you could step out of the box to the steps leading down. As you turn the corner to look down the steps behind where you have entered, you could see a guard that is bleeding as he sinks to the ground, and two assassins with bows just having finished shooting him with arrows.
I look at the assassin that just put the final arrow into the guard, and I speak the words, Kibil Uzrak Arasi Lukda, as I cast Sacred Flame. And that is a Dex save 13.
Was that Dwarvish, Farron?
It was Dwarvish, yes.
Very nice. Dex save 13, you say?
Yes.
That is an 18 on my part. I believe that saves.
Oh, that is a save, yep.
As you say this spell, is there any sort of visual effect that happens?
Grasping my amulet, I obviously speak the words, and it doesn't come right, and I question myself if I maybe said the words wrong, and I doubt myself slightly, and it starts to shine a silver glow and then fades.
All right, Farron. That is the end of your turn, I assume?
It is.
Teely.
I am going to do a quick 360 look around and check and make sure no one's gotten closer to me.
The closest one to you is the one that has just come up out of the hatch in the back of the stage.
Right.
Looks around, looks at the target of the individual in the red robes, and looks and sees you appear to be armed, and looks threateningly at you.
All right. I will turn my attention to them. And sorry, just a really quick question.
Sure.
On D&D Beyond, for the Hopak to be used as a staff, it says 1d6 minus 1, but underneath it says 1d8 minus 1. Is that depending if it's one-handed or two-handed?
Correct.
Okay. I will look towards them and grip onto my Hopak two-handed, and as he is close enough for melee, I will aim it at him and just try and do a blip and bonk him on the head.
All right. So you go rushing towards him. You skid to a stop as he is climbing up out of the hatch. His head is just low enough for you to get a good shot. He stands upright. You can see his eyes glinting with malice. Roll your attack.
Do I get, like, I don't know, advantage? Because technically he's kind of stuck in one place.
No, he's not stuck. He's waiting his turn.
Well, then I rolled a 10.
I'm afraid a 10 does not hit, Teely, as you bring the hoopak down to try and hit him in the head, but instead he blocks it with his short sword. Anything else from you, Teely?
As I bring it down and try and hit him and he blocks it. Just like,
You're making me look weak in front of my new friends!
and that's my turn.
Manto.
I am going to continue trying to disarm. I mean, if I kill this person in the process, wonderful. But seeing how many other people are coming, my focus is trying to get the sword away from him. So I am going to wipe again at his head.
All right.
Yep, nope, that's a 10.
A 10 does not hit as you see him wavering in front of you, staggered from your previous 2 blows, but this last blow to finish him off as it comes down, his eyes suddenly brighten and he sidesteps. Anything else, Manto?
I am going to smack the sword onto my shield very angrily. I am not used to a weapon of this length, and the weight is all off. It's not good.
Excellent. Well, not excellent for you, but exciting at any rate. The assassins go. The one attacking you, Manto, lunges at you, seeming to have thrown off his damage, hitting AC 21.
Yep.
4 points of slashing damage. There's one that is lying dead on the ground in front of the guard next to the actor playing Raceland. The guard turns his attention towards the one that has come up out of the hatch in the back as that assassin strikes at the guard, hitting AC 19. Well, one of us is rolling well.
What's that like?
Doing 4 points of slashing as he brings down his short sword on the guard. The guard tries to block it with his longsword, but it was a feint as the assassin ducks underneath his longsword and slashes it up the side of his armor, finding a small area where he can make a cut. It's now the guard's turn. The guard attacks assassin. He hits AC 18, brings his longsword down upon the man, who ducks out of the way for the most part, but a long slash appears next to his ear. Blip, it is your turn.
All right, I am going to pop out from the little door hatch, swinging my wooden club around, and I'm going to charge the assassin in front of me. That looks like he's going to attack Teely.
Yes, you see your Kender friend attacking this man, and indeed, you can pop right up out of that hatch. He's literally right in front of you. You pop up, you can see between his legs, you see Teely fighting him, and on the other side of Teely, you see Manto fighting another one of these people dressed all in black.
I am going to bonk him on the head with my table leg maul, and that's a 17.
All right. It's quite a stretch to bonk him on the head, but you do it nevertheless. Jump up into the air as he ducks under a blow of Teely's hoopak. And as he ducks, he runs right into your club. Roll your damage.
That is 5 bludgeoning damage as I bring it down over his head.
All right. It makes a nice solid thwack as he grunts in pain.
Awesome.
Anything else, Blip?
With my... Have I used all of my act or all of my movement? If not, I would continue going forward to try to reach Manto.
All right, yes, you have movement to do so. Before you do, would you like to rage, Blip?
Why, yes. blip is angry, and my little vein above my eyes pops out, and it starts throbbing as I become very angry and turn a beautiful shade of plum.
Nice. You leap from the hatch. You finish your attack and move. Where do you move? Do you risk the attack of opportunity as you move around this assassin in front of you, or do you try to stay in his reach?
I would plow straight through him. Club wailing like one of those little rock'em sock'em robots.
So what is your speed, Blip?
25 feet.
25 feet is enough to get you right to Manto's side, if you wish.
Yes.
But as you run past this assassin, he does gasp as he reels from the blow and curses as he sees you getting away. It reaches out with his short sword to try and cut the back of your leg as you run. He rolls a 12.
No dice.
You nimbly jump out of the way of his blade, passes harmlessly through the air. Lhasa.
Knowing in this moment that any spare moment would be wasted, I continue to rush down these stairs, stepping over the body of this man. And if I can, I'll try to squeeze past these two assassins, even though it may be at great risk to myself.
My goodness. All right. Well, neither of them have a melee weapon equipped. And as such, you are able to do it.
Would it be possible for me to squeeze through beside the curving side of the theater, or would I have to go around the outside?
So as you come running down the steps, you do see that the theater curves around, leading towards the area of the lobby. You are able to just barely squeeze around the assassin standing in your way by going right up against the smooth, polished wood of the auditorium. It is going to cost you an extra point of movement, however.
That's perfectly fine.
Lhasa, that is your movement. Any action for you?
No, I would have used my action to dash, as that was 60 feet.
I see, yes. Quickly flying down the stairs, ducking past the assassins that stand in your way. As you come around the corner and look into the lobby, you could see that the grand staircase on either side that you came up before, the main entrance onto the level that you were, you've come down a separate entrance, a separate exit, I should say, is completely on fire, and you can see the bodies of other guards lying in pools of blood. There is smoke and screaming. You can see dozens of people running from within the auditorium, trying to make their way outside. The doors are flung open as people begin fleeing the burning theater in droves. Anwir.
The guard that has felled the assassin near the prince, where has that assassin's sword fallen?
Right next to him. As you look over there, you recognize this individual. This is Tullian Haxos.
Oh, the one who had put the assassin down.
Yes, this is the one who put the assassin down. He is the guide that took you around Gwynedd when you first arrived.
Excellent. I will take my movement and my bonus action to dash to rush across the stage, and I will run all the way across, stopping next to the assassin and picking up his sword. I believe that is 50 feet of movement.
Indeed it is. Do you take any extra action to actually use your cunning action?
Would it be interact with object to pick up that sword?
To arm yourself with a weapon that is unattended is a free action.
All right. In that case, I have one more square of movement, so I can make an attack on the remaining assassin near the prince with your permission.
You used your cunning action to dash.
That's right.
In which case, as you run across the stage, you quickly deduce that there is no way for you to get past the assassin that is fighting the character holding the shield with the Solemnic symbol on it. There's no way to get past that fight without perhaps exposing yourself to some danger. Do you still wish to risk it?
I am aware of that, and I wish to take that risk, yes.
This assassin is focused on the fight with this by all appearances, a very well-armored individual, and does not take the attack of opportunity on you as you run past.
Oh, good. So, as I pick up the sword, I'm going to step to the other side of the prince so that the prince is buffeted by both me and Tulian Haxos, and with my remaining bit of energy in that moment, I'm going to stab forward at the assassin.
Very good.
I have rolled a dirty 20.
Well, that is a dirty 20 that's going to hit.
And I will get sneak attack since he is engaged with someone else, so I get a total of 7 points of piercing damage.
A deadly blow as you are able to bring your sword right under his guard and deep into his gut. Withdrawing it, he grunts and doubles over and looks up, but there's fierceness in his eyes. He still has another attack left in him. As you look at him, his face is covered with dark cloth and he has a hood. And it appears that at least a portion of his exposed face has been covered with black over and around his eyes. Anything else, Onweir?
No, I will make eye contact with Tulian and nod.
Tulian looks at you and he registers a brief moment of surprise, and then there's a half grin that immediately disappears as he fends off the attack from the assassin, who this time goes for the individual next to him. But Tulian is able to interpose himself and deflect the blade. Farron.
I will move down the stairs to follow Lhasa. And moving 20 feet down, look down at the guard. Does he look like he's breathing?
He does.
He does. Okay. I will stop, kneel down next to the guard, look up to Lhasa, place my hand upon my amulet, and I will speak the words Kibil Ozrak Imred Mahosus, and I cast Spare the Dying on the young man before me.
All right.
Knowing that no one's seen it probably apart from the assassins, whoever they're looking at.
Okay.
And then I will step 5 foot over him for my last 5 foot.
As you cast the spell, there is a shimmering light that emanates from your amulet, and the staircase glows for a moment with your power. As you reach down and touch this youth, can't be older than 21, 22. He had just taken what you think would be his last breath, and as it was about to expend, you put your hand on his chest and freeze that breath in his body, and he relaxes as his wounds close just enough to keep him alive. You see the arrows that are sticking in him push out and fall to either side of his body, as if pulled by an unseen hand.
I pick up the weapon that's laying beside him.
It is a longsword. That is your turn. Teely, back to the top.
I am going to attempt to strike at this man again because I am frustrated that it hasn't worked so far.
All right.
So I'm going to once again attempt to bonk him with a 12 this time to hit.
Well, a 12 is exactly what you needed to roll in order to hit him.
Oh, thank goodness. I will be doing it with both hands, so... that is 3 damage.
All right.
As I raise my arms all the way up with my hupak and attempt to hit him across the head.
He grunts, taking the blow, but your little arms just aren't enough to bring him down. But he staggers, shakes his head, and comes at you with a little less confidence, perhaps, than he had before.
Oops.
Anything else, Julie?
You know what? That is the end of my turn.
Very good. Brings us to Manto. Manto, there's insanity happening around you. There's fire in the auditorium. There are assassins jumping up onto the stage. There's men jumping down from the audience, running across the stage. And there's been magic, power that has blasted across the stage that you have never seen with your own eyes before.
Yes, I am very concerned as to what is going on, but my most immediate focus is the individual in front of me. Oh, thank goodness. And I am going to hit with a 15
That is, in fact, a hit.
with my club, and that is going to be 4 points of damage.
As you bring this wooden sword down upon the head of this individual, it cracks in two, becoming useless, but the damage is done as it pierces the man's head and his eyes roll up into his skull as he falls to the ground, dead.
Excellent. Then I am going to pick up his... You said it was a short sword?
Yes.
Yes, I'm going to pick up his short sword, and then I am going to jump off the stage and made my way closer to where I see an assassin that is sitting in some of the seating for the common folk.
Yes, he's not sitting there. He is standing up, and he is taking arrows. Looks like he has taken a total of 2 arrows out of his pack, and he has put them into fire that is burning merrily on the seats next to him and shooting them into various parts of the theater. The fire has continued to grow. Smoke is beginning to fill the auditorium, and you are beginning to have difficulty seeing, but you do nevertheless see him. As he sees you, he puts down his bow and comes running towards you, drawing his short sword. He attacks. Ooh, he has hit AC 22.
Jeez Louise, I'm getting obliterated by these people.
He does 2 points of slashing damage.
It's okay, I've been hit like 4 times though, so I am starting to feel it. Yes, you're starting to see blood just dripping.
Right, you can see your armor has large slashes in it as it is continuing to protect you, but it is not as effective as the real thing. Let's see, he finishes his turn. The one attacking you, Teely, attempts to do so again, hitting AC 16.
Yep, that'll hit. That'll do it.
All right, 6 points of slashing as Teely, you try to leap back to avoid it, but he slashes across your chest. As he does, your many beads and baubles protect you from most of the damage, but it knocks the wind out of you. That is his turn. The one that has just taken the blow from you, Onweir, attempts to pay you back in kind, but has rolled a 9.
That does not hit. It glances off of my leather armor.
The assassins that are nearby, Farron and Lassa, outside the auditorium, one turns and fires an arrow at you, Lassa, hitting AC 14.
As this projectile comes towards me, I shield my face and begin to speak words that come to mind. Unyielding crystal clear, keep all harm from drawing near. And as I do, a shimmering light begins to envelop me. But it seems to be becoming more and more taxing as I have searing headaches begin to lance through my mind.
I see, and you have cast shield, I assume.
Correct.
Very good. So as the arrow comes flying towards you, it seems to slow and then stop right in front of your face, falling harmlessly to the ground as the man gasps, his eyes wide, and you can hear him shout something in a language I do not think you speak. But there is a word in there that sounds awfully similar to magi. The other one fires at Farron with a 5.
Misses.
Completely missing. Now, Lassa, I do believe that is the second leveled spell that you have completed this day. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
So that is shield just now and magic missile while we were in the auditorium, which means it is time for us to determine where in the heavens the 3 moons are. You are using an attunement slot to be affected by the phases of the moon, correct?
Most certainly.
Excellent. Then I need you to roll me 3d8s. That is to say, you need to roll 1d8 3 times and tell me what the number is each time.
Absolutely. 3, 1, and 5.
Just like that, with the dice, we control the wheel of the heavens over the lands of Krynn. That means, consulting our chart here, that Solinari is in low sanction, and Lunatari and Nuatari, although Lhasa wouldn't necessarily know about Nuatari, but regardless, it is there, whether he knows about it or not. Both those moons are in high sanction, which means that this Constitution saving throw that I need from you can be rolled at advantage, with 2 moons in high sanction.
Excellent. With that, we have a 16.
A 16 is a success. As you said before, the magic is taking its toll. You're beginning to feel some fatigue, but it is not enough to cause you any serious discomfort or lack of ability at this moment. And we have established where the moons are in the heavens. If you would be so kind, Lhasa, going forward as to mark their progress with each passing day, starting where they are here on this day, 3, 1, and 5 on our chart. Going forward, you will just mark the progression as each day goes by. Agreed?
It will be my pleasure to chart the moon's progress through the heavens.
Excellent. All right. That brings us to Tulian Haxos, who attempts to finish off what you have done, Anwir. He attacks with his longsword with a crit. As he does, the assassin had barely any life left as missed his attack against you, Anwir. Tulian comes forward, trips him, and stabs him through the heart. He lies still. Turns to you and hisses, Anwir, pointing towards the fellow with the red robe.
This is the prince. We must get him out of here immediately.
Where can we take him?
He looks towards the corner of the theater where there is another curtain and gestures towards it, but just as he does, it opens and you see a guard tumble through, falling to the ground, bleeding profusely from a wound as another assassin steps forward. He turns to you and says,
I don't know. Not familiar with this place. Your Grace.
And as he says this, the fellow playing Raceland pulls his hood back, and you can see that it is, in fact, Jarvan Merciador VI, who is covered with golden paint, looking around fearfully. Father! And he shouts up as you see combat continuing to ensue in the royal box. That is the end of his turn. That brings us to Blip.
Okay, my forward momentum from my last bonk attack, I'm going to continue charging forward to go for the assassin that is in front of Manto.
All right.
So I will charge forward and jump off the stage in a little plum-faced gully dwarf rage and attempt to whack him with my maul. That is a 7 to hit.
7 does not hit. You land next to Manto and slip for a moment as you come to bonk this assassin, but he ducks out of the way of a blow from Manto's short sword, and doing so also dodges your attack. Lhasa, it is your turn.
Although I wish to press forward as fast as possible, I have to spare worry for Farron, and so I turn to face one of the assassins behind me and bring my hands up to my mouth and begin to do what appears to be as you might breathe into a small fire. Oh, spark, awaken cinder and become flame. And as I blow outward, a boiling small ball of fire projects forward, attempting to strike him with Firebolt.
All right.
Huh. That should be 18 to hit.
That will be a hit.
5 points of damage.
5 points of damage. His eyes widen as the fire strikes him. He grunts in pain as parts of his clothes briefly burst into flame, but he is still up.
Seeing that he has yet to yield to the magics that I'm wielding, I'm going to continue forward, doing my best to keep Farron in sight, because the actions here are beginning to unfold, somewhat like a half-remembered dream.
As you come around the corner, Lhasa, there is a blast of cold energy that just erupts in front of you, immediately extinguishing all the flames in your path, as a mighty work of magic is done, chilling the air, creating ice along the walls where once there had been flame. Your way is clear. The only thing in front of you is frozen bodies that were already dead. That brings us to Onweir.
I will make eye contact with Tulian and nod, and I will look at the prince and say, "Your father is as protected as he can be. Stay with us." And I will step forward and move away from the prince to engage with the assassin that is fighting Teely, and I will strike with my short sword.
All right, so Onweir, I do believe this is the first time you have met Teely.
Correct.
Although you certainly are aware of Blair's name, you just see a Kender.
All right. I have hit with an 18,
That is a hit.
and that is 12 points of piercing damage.
Doesn't even see you coming. As you sneak up next to him, the Kender ducks a blow, and as he stands up, you deftly snake your short sword out, cut his throat. He drops his blade, clutching at his throat, falling to his knees, and then dying.
I will take a look down at the Kender, and I will smile and say, "Your song was my favorite." And then I will run back to the prince.
I blush.
Farron.
I move towards the enemy and duck to the side and slink through, hitting the wall, turning round, and I swing the longsword that I picked up back at the man with the bow that shot up me and myself.
Very good.
And that's a 17 to hit, plus 3, dirty 20.
That is definitely a hit. He's still reeling from the firebolt.
And I am two-handed. Minimum damage, 4 damage.
4 damage.
Oh, that's terrible.
As he grunts, barely getting out of the way of your blow, still manages to take a large cut across his hand.
Let's be done.
And with that, as battle rages, magic, unlike which many of you have seen, coursing across the auditorium, fires raging to the roofs, ice, power, divine and arcane, blood, screams, and panic. The battle continues, but we will pick it up when we return next time. That brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you for making Echoes of Krynn a part of your day. If you want to support this and other great actual play content, head over to www.ko-fi.com/lawfulstupidrpg. We also present weekly live streams on Twitch. Head to www.twitch.tv/lawfulstupidrpg to check out new and past episodes. Thanks again for joining us, and until next time, Esularis Othbithas. Farewell.
This has been a Lawful Stupid RPG production.